Chapter 2490. Mayan slowly stood up and walked towards Shui Huailu, pulling Luo Yu behind her. Luo Yu happily accepted her sixth senior sister's protection. She took out a spirit fruit and munched on it while admiring Shui Huailu's terrified expression. The two leaving Aperture Realm cultivators who were standing quietly behind Shui Huailu to protect him were baffled by Shui Huailu's fearful expression. The girl before them was only a nascent soul cultivator, and she didn't exude any killing intent. Why was the young master so afraid? Shui Huailu didn't show any fear when Murong Shui's aura and killing intent erupted. One of them hurriedly stepped forward and whispered, "Don't worry, young master. With the two of us protecting you, no one will get a chance to hurt you." Shui Huailu glared at them. Worry my ass. He had almost forgotten that Lan Liu, that little bastard, was the junior of that demoness, Jun Mayan. What use were two leaving Aperture cultivators in the face of such a terrifying killer? Shui Huai had many experts by his side in the Woodfern secret realm, but wasn't he crushed like an ant by Mayan? Even more frightening was the news from those who'd been to the Woodfern secret realm. This Jun Mayan is valiant, vicious, and merciless, but she also has a powerful backer behind her. Even the Shui family, which had lost two successors, didn't dare to settle the score with her. The Shui family only had two juniors, Shui Huailu and Shui Huai. With Shui Huai's death, Shui Huailu became the Shui family's sole heir. Even though his innate spiritual roots were mostly destroyed, the Shui family could only focus on nurturing him and his descendants. This was also why Shui Huailu dared to be so arrogant. However, he could be arrogant towards anyone, but he doesn't dare to be arrogant towards Jun Mayan. Others might fear his identity as the Shui family's successor, but she definitely wouldn't. Moreover, this demoness was definitely capable of killing him in front of everyone just because of a disagreement. Shui Huailu's lips trembled, and he squeezed out an ugly smile after a while. "Jun, goddess, you must be joking. How would I dare speak rudely to your junior brother? You were just joking?" Luo Yu took a bite of the spirit fruit and giggled. "So, the young master Shui was joking with me to call me a bastard. Sure, courtesy demands reciprocity. I can't fall behind. Shui Huailu bastard. Shui Huailu bastard. Shui Huailu bastard." Shui Huailu's face contorted in anger, and smoke almost rose from the top of his head. But in the end, he gritted his teeth and endured it. When his underlings wanted to teach Luo Yu a lesson, he even gave them 2 tight slaps. Disgraceful things, get lost. Shui Huailu left dejectedly. Luo Yu happily takes Mayan's arm. Sixth senior sister is mighty. Sure enough, as long as Sixth senior sister was around, she could slap the face of a villain anytime and anywhere. This feeling could only be described with one word. Awesome. This interlude passed quickly. In this noisy hall, it did not attract too much attention. At this time, when it was close to sea, Lung Qingwan and Lu Yu's group also arrived. Today, Lung Qingwan was wearing a gorgeous cloud gauze dress. She didn't wear a veil on her face, and she even had makeup on. Her whole person appeared flamboyant and gorgeous, but did not lose her charm. This kind of beauty was extremely impactful. Almost the moment she appeared, she attracted everyone's attention. This is immortal fairy Qingwan? Oh my god, so beautiful. Chapter 2491. Looking at it this way, this face really looks like Jun Mayan. Could it be that Qingwan Xianji is really Jun Mayan? Huh. The person accompanying Jun Qingwan seems to be someone from Ding Beiho's mansion. Her background doesn't seem to be small. Lung Qingwan's face is cold and arrogant, as if she doesn't listen to the noisy discussions around her. Her eyes sweep over and fall on Mu Yin, and her cold and arrogant expression instantly becomes gloomy and cold. Mu Yin looks at her face and slightly narrows her eyes. Lung Qingwan's face really changes. Now she looks at least 70 to 80% similar to herself. Moreover, there's no trace of a disguise. How did she do it? What's her purpose? Luo Yu grits her teeth. This woman is so shameless, pretending to be Six Sisters' identity, and even stealing Six Sisters' face. Shameless. Suzy, No way. Little sister is much better looking than this ugly woman. They don't look alike at all. Lan Huahong. And the oldest mother is the most beautiful. Mu Yen. She can't help but laugh at these three clowns. Mississippi. Chu Tanyu suddenly whispers in her ear. The one on the left of Lung Qingwan is Lu Yu, and the one on the right is Chu Xinyan's adopted son, Chu Mingquan. On the surface, Chu Mingquan is Chu Xinyan's adopted son, but in fact, he specializes in handling some shameful matters for Chu Xinyan. For example, looking for innocent women who can bear Chu Xinyan's children for him to absorb their lifespan. Mu Yan's eyes darken. Just as she's talking, Chu Mingquan strides over. A pair of hawk-like eyes looks at Mu Yan up and down, as if to engrave her appearance into his mind. Then he smiles lightly. Great God Yi, I've heard a lot about you. It's not easy to see the true face of the great god. Mu Yan leisurely drinks a cup of spirit wine. Is that so? This light sentence is clearly a perfunctory reply. Chu Mingquan has always been the spokesperson of Dingbei Ho. Wherever he goes, people would hold him in high regard. Being treated so coldly at this time, he can't help but frown. But this trace of displeasure is quickly hidden, and the smile on his face becomes more and more genial. My Dingwa Manor has favored great God Yi for a long time. Today, I, Chu Mingquan, represent the Dingwa Ho Fu to extend an invitation to great God Yi. If great God is willing to come to my Dingwa Ho Fu, I guarantee you will receive the highest treatment. Mayan says with a smile that isn't a smile, I'm sorry, the people who want to hire me can line up from Xiun Jia to Min Lu Jia. I don't know what kind of price the Dingwa Manor can offer. Chu Mingquan was startled and was about to speak. He then heard Mu Yin continue. If the price can't compare to the value of the mysterious heaven bead and the medicine king's inheritance, then don't say it out loud and make a fool of yourself. After all, this was the Dingwa Marquis residence. If you don't even have this much wealth, how can you invite others? Chu Mingquan's face froze. His fake friendliness turned into malice. Yiliang Chun, I advise you not to do this the hard way. Do you really think you can hide in the dark forever? Since you have shown your face today, my Dingwa Manor will definitely dig you out. At that time, have you thought about the consequences of offending the Dingwa Manor? Mu Yin, I thought about it. So since I've already offended them, I might as well offend them a little more. The corners of her mouth gently rose, and her gaze swept over Lung Qingwan. So, it's better to wait until I become the champion of the pill competition, and when the Dingwa Manor loses his underwear, then you can tell me about the consequences of offending the Dingwa Manor. Chapter 2492. Lung Qingwan finally couldn't bear it anymore and screamed, Yiliang Chun, do you think you've won? Mu Yin thought for a moment. Based on past experience, I think it's right. Let me count. How many times has a mortal fairy Qingwan run to me and hooted, only to suffer a crushing defeat and run away shamelessly? 3 times? 4 times? Or 5 times? Shut up. Lung Qingwan's eyes almost burst out. Yiliang Chun, I'm telling you, you could only beat me in Tianguang ruins, but in reality, you'll definitely lose. Before Mu Yin could speak, Su Zi suddenly smiled. Fairy Jun Qingwan, since you're so confident, why don't you make a bet with Great God Yi? Lung Qingwan, what bet? Bet who will be the champion of the pill competition, of course. Su Zi said innocently. As for the bet, a cold light flashed in her clear eyes, and the tear mole under her eye was faintly discernible. Let's bet on this face. Whoever loses will use this sky-eroding water. I just obtained some time ago to destroy his or her face. It's said that whatever is destroyed by this sky-eroding water can't be restored no matter what method is used. Mu Yin couldn't help but look at Su Zi. After their reunion, this kid has been so obedient that she almost forgot that he's a black man. The loser will use the sky-eroding water to destroy his or her face. How could he think of that? Isn't he afraid of losing? Su Zi looked at her innocently. Mrs. Invincible, how could she lose? And if she loses, I'll just secretly change the sky-eroding water to ordinary corrosive water. Mu Yin held back her laughter. This kid is really naughty. But she likes it. She's already unhappy looking at Lung Qingwan's face. It would be strange if anyone was happy looking at someone else's face. Hearing Su Zi's words, Lung Qingwan didn't expose herself, but instead sneered. Let's bet. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? But how can your ugly face compare to my peerless beauty? If you lose, I want you to destroy your dantian and hand over the king of medicine's inheritance. Mu Yin raised her eyebrows. Lung Qingwan is so confident. What kind of trump card does he have? Lung Qingwan mocked. What? Don't you dare? Mu Yin shakes her head. No, I'm just counting. Including this time, how many times will you be slapped in the face? Doesn't it hurt to be slapped in public time and time again? Oh, I forgot. Your skin is very thick, of course it won't hurt. Lung Qingwan's face twisted again. But before she could even speak, a shout was heard from the Cloud Phoenix Hall's main entrance. His Majesty has arrived. The Empress has arrived. Just as the shout fell, a man and a woman dressed in dragon robes and phoenix coronets appeared on the only seat of honor in the Cloud Phoenix Hall. They were the Lan family empire's Emperor Lan Yiqian and Empress Bai Wei. Just as the two of them sat down, the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall shone brightly, and an invisible barrier enveloped the entire hall. This was a protective barrier, as well as a powerful formation. From the moment the protective shield was activated, the Cloud Phoenix Palace Hall prohibited the use of force, becoming a safe and stable place. This was also the Lan clan empire's protection for the imperial family and distinguished guests. The elixir competition will now begin. The three masters who advanced to the finals, please step forward. The unit beside Lan Yiqian called out. Mu Yin, Lung Qingwan, and Su Qingling stepped forward together and walked to the center of the hall. Chapter 2493. The three of them did not kneel down to salute, but just nodded slightly to the two people in the upper seats. Lung Qingwan proudly raised her chin, as if she was 100 times more noble than the bullshit emperor and empress. In the eyes of mortals and low-level cultivators, the emperor may be unattainable. But in fact, for powerful cultivators, the power of the emperor is nothing more than fleeting clouds. The throne and power were just fleeting clouds. Only powerful strength was worthy of respect and yearning. Therefore, Lan Yiqian was not angry at the attitude of the three people. Instead, he revealed a warm smile. Gu did not expect that this year's alchemy competition's finals would be the top three masters of the coiled dragon list. Bai Wei's eyes were more focused on Mu Yin. After all, Lan Huahong was so close to Mu Yin. How could she not pay attention to him as his mother? Lan Yiqian reluctantly announced the start of the alchemy competition. However, at this time, Chu Mingquan suddenly stood up. Your Majesty, before the alchemy competition begins, my Dingwa Manor has something to confirm with Dragon Soaring Academy. With that, Chu Mingquan looked at Zhou Daoi and Chu Zongxing and smiled faintly. Dean Zhou, why don't I see Elder Kong? You can't have forgotten the bet between your Dragon Soaring Academy and my Dingwa Manor, right? Elder Kong is the person who made the bet, but he did not appear today. Do you want to go back on your word? Zhou Daoi's eyes flashed with extreme anger. Kong Yuanjiu was forced to make a bet with Chu Xinyan, and his beloved granddaughter died in front of him. For a moment, he felt guilty and sad, so he directly chose to go into seclusion. He hoped that one day his strength could surpass Chu Xinyan and even break through the tribulation and ascend, so that he would no longer be threatened. And this news was naturally known by the Dingwa Manor. Now that he asked in public, it was obviously to humiliate and establish his power. Chu Mingquan saw that Zhou Daoi and Chu Zongxing were so angry that they could not speak, and the smile on his face became more and more arrogant. Elder Kong did not come, and Dean Zhou is not willing to say it. Then only I can say it. Our Dingwa Manor and Dragon Soaring Academy have an agreement in advance. If Immortal Fairy Qingwan, who is supported by my Dingwa Manor, wins the first place in the alchemy competition, Dragon Soaring Academy will have to hand over the 6 Stars Pagoda and the Chaotic Tower. Dean Zhou, am I right? When these words were spoken, the expressions of everyone in the Devouring Cloud Phoenix Hall changed. Everyone in the Purple Cloud realm knew what kind of existence the six-star pagoda was. It was a holy land for nurturing and verifying young elite cultivators. The fame of the chaotic pagoda was not as high as the Six Stars Pagoda, but those who knew of it could clearly sense that its value far surpassed the Six Stars Pagoda. Because the chaotic pagoda was evidently a heaven-defying divine tool used to train an army. Once someone obtained the chaotic tower and had sufficient power, their final achievements would be immeasurable. In this year, it was not as if there was no one who had designs on the chaotic tower. It was just that although the chaotic tower was in the divine elephant city, Long Tongue was only entrusted to manage it and did not have control over it. The true master of the chaotic pagoda was the artifact spirit of the six-star pagoda. It was a mysterious existence that had existed for 1,000 years, and its strength far surpassed that of a cultivator at the tribulation stage. Once the six stars token appeared, anyone who dared to covet it would die without a burial ground. This was the reason why Chu Xinyan made a bet with Long Tongue to bring the Six Stars Pagoda and the Chaotic Pagoda together. When the people present heard this bet, they instantly realized something. Chapter 2494. Especially Lan Yiqian, Bai Wei, and the others. Their faces were unspeakably ugly. Long Tongue was an academy. Even if they controlled the Chaotic Tower, they would not use it to accumulate power and plot against the world. But if the ambitious Dingwa Manor obtained it, it would be hard to say. Zhou Daoi and Chu Zongxing trembled with anger. But this bet was made by them, and in front of everyone, they had no choice but to admit it. Now, the only thing they could hope for was for Mu Yin to win this competition. Zhou Daoi took a deep breath. Yes, we really. However, before Executive Zhou finished his words, he was interrupted by a pleasant but somewhat sarcastic female voice. There's indeed a bet, but I'm a little curious. If Long Tongue loses, they have to hand over the Six Stars Pagoda and the Chaotic Tower. If Dingwa Manor loses, what do they have to hand over? Chu Mingquan's face stiffened, almost blurting out, "Naturally, Dingwa Manor will no longer pursue this matter." Halfway through his words, he couldn't continue. Not pursue what? Not pursue Long Tongue for hiding Chu Tianyu? But Chu Tianyu was a student of Long Tongue. How could it be considered as hiding? And Chu Xinyan's coercion of Long Tongue. It couldn't be brought up to the public. Chu Mingquan's face suddenly turned green and white. Mu Yin chuckled. I've made so many bets in my life, but I've never heard of a bet that only requires one party. Your Majesty, Dingwa Manor doing this. Isn't it too unkind, too unscrupulous? Lan Yiqian said in a low voice. Indeed. Chu Mingquan, this is Elder Kong and Father. Mu Yin didn't wait for him to finish speaking, immediately saying, since you already know that it's unscrupulous, it's not too late to change it. I think Dingwa Manor should add a bet on the spot. What should we add? Chu Tianyu bent down and whispered a few words in Mu Yan's ear. The smile on Mu Yan's face became brighter and brighter, adding a hint of charm to her originally ordinary appearance. If Fairy Qingwan loses, Dingwa Manor will give the Heavenly Dragon City in their hands to Long Tongue Academy. How about it? Since Long Tongue is a little far from Heavenly Dragon City, it's inconvenient to manage it, so I'll leave it to the Lan royal family to help manage it. Lan Yiqian's eyes suddenly widen as he looks at Mayan with pleasant surprise. Chu Mingquan's expression could no longer be described as ugly. He was burning with rage, and there was even a trace of fear in his eyes. Lu Yu glared at him and scolded, "Idiot!" Celestial Dragon City was an extremely important city. It was adjacent to the southern land and was backed by the Heavenly Phoenix mountain range. It was easy to defend and difficult to attack. Moreover, it had abundant spiritual qi. Whoever obtained this city would be like obtaining a stronghold, like adding wings to a tiger. If they really lost to Sky Dragon City today, given Chu Xinyan's cruel and merciless character, he would definitely make Chu Mingquan suffer 100 times worse than death. Chu Mingquan's legs trembled at the thought of this. At this moment, he was filled with regret. Why did he deliberately step forward to humiliate Long Tongue? In the end, he went for wool and came home shorn. Instead, he roasted himself on the fire. I can't make this decision. Ha. What's there to be afraid of? Just agree to it. Do you really think that this consort will lose to Yiliangshan? Lung Qingwan raised her chin and proudly cut off Chu Mingquan's words. Chu Mingquan's voice was stuck in his throat, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Muyan almost burst out laughing. She immediately made a decision. Okay, the bet is set. I ask all the elders and seniors present to testify. Chapter 2495. Lan Yiqian coughs lightly. We can personally testify that the bet between Dragon Soaring Academy and Dingwa Manor is valid. Now the pill competition officially begins. Lung Qingwan looks at Mu Yan with a cold and mocking gaze and sneers. Yiliangshan, do you think you've won? Do you really think I'm an idiot? If I wasn't sure, do you think I would make this bet with you? As soon as her voice falls, she raises her hand, and a silver alchemy furnace appears in front of everyone. This silver alchemy furnace is engraved with complex patterns, and there's a faint red light circulating on its surface. It's not an ordinary item at first glance. Most importantly, this alchemy furnace actually emits a faint pressure. Artifact, a master refiner exclaims and stands up abruptly. This alchemy furnace is an artifact? What? Using an artifact to refine pills? Is this Qingwan crazy? Listening to the exclamations of the surrounding people, Lung Qingwan's face shows a mocking smile. A group of stupid mortals, country bumpkins who haven't seen the world. They simply don't know that in the Xiaoxian continent, every alchemy furnace is at least an artifact level. It's just that the higher the grade of the artifact, the easier it is to be destroyed when passing through the space barrier. So now, she only has this artifact level, Xianyuan Cauldron. Lung Qingwan's gaze sharpens, and the immortal power in her dantian surges. A flame instantly appears in her palm, and she throws it into the Xianyuan Cauldron. There's clearly no elixir in the cauldron, but this flame burns fiercely inside. Moreover, the air was instantly filled with a refreshing smell. This is the legendary real Dan fire. This time, everyone is even more shocked than when they saw the artifact-level furnace. Even Su Qingling's complexion changes. There's actually someone in the Xiaoxian continent who managed to refine a real Dan fire. Mu Yin slightly narrows her eyes, and a strange light flashes through them. She used to think that Dan fire only refers to the flame of alchemy. Later, after listening to her ninth master, she realized that it wasn't. Dan fire refers to an alchemist finding a powerful spiritual fire of heaven and earth, nourishing it with their own spiritual power and divine sense, and finally refining and absorbing it into the body to use it for alchemy. Only with this kind of alchemy fire would it have enough energy, and only then would the alchemist have enough control. In the Xiaoxian continent, only cultivators who can control Dan fire are qualified to be called true Dan masters. Only those who had devoured and controlled their alchemic fire could refine pills above the 10th grade. It was the king elixir. Lung Qingwan looked around. Seeing everyone's shocked expression, the corner of her mouth slowly hooked up. Finally, her arrogant eyes fall on Mu Yin. Have you heard of Wang Dan? Someone was confused. What's a king pill? Someone gasped. Wang Dan. Wasn't that a pill that only existed in legends? I heard that no one in the cultivation world has ever been able to refine it successfully. Is a mortal fairy Qingwan going to refine a monarch elixir? My God, if a mortal fairy Qingwan can really refine king elixirs, then she'll definitely win. Lung Qingwan sneered. Yiliangshan, I already said that I would lose to you in the Tianguang ruins because my strength was suppressed. But in the real world, you will definitely lose. After saying that, she unhesitatingly began to take out elixirs from her storage ring and even immortal medicines and threw them into the furnace. The finals of the elixir competition is very simple. There's no time limit, no cumbersome rules, only one. Chapter 2496. Whoever refined a pill that was more appreciated by the cultivators present would be the final winner. looking at Lung Qingwan's skillful movements and the dazzling light emitted by the Xianyuan cauldron. Zhou Daoi's face was pale, and his body was on the verge of collapse. He turned around and exchanged glances with Vice President Chu. They both saw the despair in each other's eyes. Jun Qingwan could actually refine a King Dan. They hadn't received any news before. Now, no matter how powerful the 10th grade Dan that Mu Yin refined, how could it be compared to the King Dan? Their soaring dragon was bound to lose. Su Qingling looked at it for a while and shook her head regretfully. She took a step back and said, "I can't refine a king elixir. I'm willing to withdraw from this competition." Her appearance was beautiful and her temperament was carefree and straightforward. Regardless of whether he advanced or retreated, he was confident and unruffled. Before he left, he even took out 2 bottles of wine. He tossed one bottle to Mu Yin and casually took a sip from the other bottle. Then he smiled and said, "Almighty Yi, I'm more optimistic about you as the champion of the alchemy competition. Don't lose to those pretentious, arrogant women." Mu Yin took the bottle and drank a mouthful without hesitation. She chuckled and said, "How can I disappoint Master Su with a beauty's trust?" Su Qingling stared blankly for a moment before laughing out loud. She liked Yap Liangshan so much. After drinking the wine, Mu Yin casually tosses the bottle aside and takes out the alchemy furnace. Her alchemy furnace was of the 9th grade, and it was the best of the 9th grade. However, compared to Lung Qingwan's profound origin cauldron, it was naturally far inferior. When they see Mu Yin first put down the elixir and then inject her own spiritual fire, many of the people present are already shaking their heads. Zhou Daoi's eyes were red. He held his head and fell into despair. Lung Qingwan takes a moment to glance at Mayan and sneers, "Struggling on your deathbed? Hee, then this fairy will let you die a little more understanding." As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly mobilized the immortal energy in her body and injected it into the profound origin cauldron. In the cultivation continent, it was extremely difficult to replenish immortal energy. When immortals came to the cultivation continent, they could only use their dantian as a medium to transfer the spiritual energy in the air. This was completely different from storing and producing spiritual power in one's dantian. Using one's dantian as a transit point, one could easily absorb the barren qi in the air and cause damage to one's soul. The immortal force stored in his dantian could expel this barren qi. However, once his immortal energy was used up, there was no way to replenish it in the cultivation world. His body would be completely corroded by the desolate qi, which was extremely dangerous. Therefore, people from the Xiaoxin continent would rarely use their immortal force when they came to the Xiaoxin continent. But at this moment, Lung Qingwan couldn't care less. She only wanted to ruthlessly trample on Yi Liangshan, then obtain the fame and inheritance that she deserved. As immortal qi was injected into the cauldron, everyone was shocked to see a black cloud appear above the mysterious Yuan cauldron. A faint golden light flickered in the dark clouds, and from time to time, muffled sounds of thunder could be heard. Tribulation cloud. These are tribulation clouds. I've heard that in the cultivation continent, refining a pill above the 10th grade is equivalent to transcending the tribulation. So there will be a lightning tribulation. Oh my God. So Immortal Fairy Qing Wan really refined a king elixir that's more powerful than a 10th grade elixir. Lung Qingwan's eyes shone brightly as she attentively looked at the alchemy cauldron, injecting her spiritual power. It was also at this time that Mayan raised her head to look at the tribulation clouds. The corners of her mouth slowly hooked up into a faintly discernible smile. At this very moment, everyone's eyes are focused on Lung Qingwan. Chapter 2497. No one noticed that Mayan, who had just been unhurriedly throwing the elixirs into the furnace, is now moving her hands faster and faster. The flames in the cauldron grew stronger and stronger. There was even a hint of an incomparably fragrant smell in the air where the flames were burning. However, after this fragrance was released, it was absorbed by the pill in the cauldron. Not even the slightest bit of it leaked out. Furthermore, no one noticed that the originally pitch-black spirit medicines within the pill furnace were beginning to emit a strange, faint golden light. On the other side, Lung Qingwan's alchemy had already entered the final stage of core formation. Fine beads of sweat dripped down her forehead, and her face was deathly pale because she had consumed more than half of her immortal power but was unable to replenish it. However, her eyes were bursting with excitement and agitation. Above their heads, the rumbling thunder seemed like it would fall at any moment. As long as the core was formed, the lightning tribulation would fall and coat the surface of the elixir with a layer of heavenly Tao golden light, which meant that the king elixir had been formed. In fact, it was much easier to refine a king pill in the Xiaoxin continent, and there was no need to go through a lightning tribulation. But at the same time, the value of a king pill that had been refined through the baptism of lightning on the Xiaoxin continent was incomparable to any king pill on the Xiaoxin continent. As long as this pill is out of the furnace, all these stupid mortals of the cultivation continent will all kneel at his feet. As for Yi Liangchun, that bitch whose cultivation was about to be destroyed was not qualified to be mentioned in the same breath as him. Within the Cloud Phoenix Hall, everyone's gaze fell upon Lung Qingwan's profound origin cauldron. Because it was about to form its core, the runes on the profound origin cauldron were bright red and dazzling. It was as if a precious treasure was about to be born, attracting everyone's attention. Chu Mingquan, who had been trembling with fear and uneasiness, finally relaxed. A leisurely smile appeared on his face again. Finally, the spirit herbs in the mystic origin cauldron gradually condensed into pills. 2. This cauldron actually has 2 king pills. Heavens! I haven't even gone through the lightning tribulation's baptism, but I can already feel the powerful energy emanating from this medicinal pill. Moreover, this energy is not pure spiritual power, but it makes me feel more comfortable than spiritual power. Lung Qingwan raised the corner of her mouth, as if she was swallowing clouds. He sent a strand of celestial energy into the sky and said indifferently, "Come, lightning tribulation, help me form the pill." 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths passed. However, her surroundings were quiet, and there was no tribulation lightning falling. Lung Qingwan stared blankly and hurriedly raised her head to look. However, as soon as she looked, she was immediately dumbfounded. Gone. The tribulation cloud that was floating above her head just now had actually disappeared. Rumble. A thunderous sound came from not far away from her. Lung Qingwan abruptly turned his head to look, and then saw an unbelievable scene. When did the tribulation cloud appear above Yap, Liang Chen's head? Moreover, the golden light hidden in the tribulation clouds was even brighter than before. What Lung Qingwan heard was a rumbling sound. It was the sound of the first bolt of tribulation lightning striking the grade 9 furnace. The people from the Cloud Phoenix Palace were all dumbfounded. What is going on? Why was Jun Qingwan's tribulation over, but Yi Liangqin's pill was undergoing tribulation? Wasn't it Jun Qingwan who refined the king pill? No. The problem is Yi Liangqin didn't use a real alchemy fire. So how could he refine the king pill? How could he attract the tribulation lightning? Chapter 2498. Suddenly, there's a weak voice. I just saw the tribulation cloud above Jun Qingwan go to Liangqin's side. Shit, is this even possible? This is the roaring thought in everyone's mind at this time. Without Danfire, it's impossible to refine a real king pill, and naturally, it can't attract the lightning tribulation. Therefore, when almost everyone knows that Lung Qingwan can refine a king pill, they think that Liangqin will lose. Because everyone knows that Liangqin can use spiritual fire, and her spiritual fire's purity is very high. Ordinary alchemy cauldrons below the 8th level can't withstand it. That's why, during the competition at Tianguang Ruins, furnaces exploded one after another. But no matter how pure the spiritual fire is, it's still spiritual fire, not Danfire. It can't attract the lightning tribulation. However, great god Yeliankin doesn't play cards according to common sense. Without Dan Fire, you can't attract the lightning tribulation. Then I'll just snatch the lightning tribulation that others attract. The key point is that she really fucking snatched the lightning tribulation. Before this, who had ever heard that the thunder tribulation could be fucking snatched from others? Many people don't even know that in the Shiojin continent, one has to go through the lightning tribulation to refine a king pill. Of course, the one who can accept this scene the most is not the onlookers. It's Lung Qingwan. She's going crazy. Impossible. This is impossible. That's my lightning tribulation, mine. How could it be snatched by a slut like you? Boom. Another lightning tribulation falls. Mayan quickly infuses the spiritual power in her body with a trace of immortal power into the alchemy cauldron. The 9th rank alchemy cauldron creaks as if it will break at any time. But because of the infusion of Mayan's spiritual power, it finally holds up. The next moment, the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall is filled with a refreshing fragrance. Lan Etienne, who is sitting on the main seat, takes a deep breath and his face changes. He feels that his cultivation, which has been shackled for a long time, is faintly showing signs of loosening. What elixir is this? It has such an effect just by smelling it. What if it's taken? The falling lightning tribulation raises a dust cloud. When the dust cloud dissipates, everyone pokes their heads to look. He saw that there were 3 pills in the already tottering Grey 9 cauldron. Every single one of them emitted a strong fragrance of energy that could make one go crazy. Each of them had a faint golden pattern on their surface. This is a king pill. Someone exclaimed. This really is a king pill. So, it is possible to refine a king pill without Dan Fire? Hee. That's God ye, all right? If it were you, why don't you try snatching a thunder tribulation? Zhou Daoi and Chu Zongxing came over to take a look. At that time, they felt dizzy and almost couldn't believe it was real. Jun Mayan snatched Lung Qingwan's thunder tribulation and refined it into a real king pill. So their long-tongue one? Was this a miracle? Was there light at the end of the tunnel? The 1,000-year foundation of the soaring dragon could finally be preserved? For a moment, Zhou Daoi and Chu Zongxing couldn't describe their feelings, but their eyes were already red. At this moment, their admiration and gratitude towards Mu Yan have reached the extreme. He felt that only such a woman was worthy of that most honorable person. But Chu Mingquan and Lu Yu were the complete opposite of Zhou Daoi and the others. The thunder tribulation was snatched, and Lung Qingwan failed to refine a king pill. It was simply like a bolt from the blue, beating them silly. Lost. The Dingwa Manor lost. No. How could this be? How could this be? Chapter 2499. If they not only fail to win back the 6 Stars Pagoda and the Chaotic Tower, but instead lose the Heavenly Dragon City, one can imagine what kind of fate they will have when they return. In a split second, the two look at Lung Qingwan with eyes full of hatred. At this time, Lung Qingwan has completely forgotten about the bet she made. Watching the 3rd lightning strike, the fragrance of the elixir that Mayan refined becomes stronger, and the golden patterns become more dazzling. Lung Qingwan couldn't bear it anymore. She suddenly pulls out a dagger, roars, and pounces towards Mayan. Slut, you dare to steal my lightning tribulation. I want your dog life. The dagger in her hand exudes a dark green light. As soon as the dagger appears, the surrounding temperature seems to drop a lot, giving people an incomparably gloomy feeling. Mayan recognizes it at a glance. This is the soul imprisoning dagger that Lung Qingwan wanted to kill her in the Yanwu continent. Compared to this soul imprisoning dagger that Lung Qingwan used as a temporary body, this one is of a much higher level and much more sinister. The corner of Mayan's mouth slightly hooks up, revealing an awe-inspiring smile. Very good. This time, she is 100% sure that this Lung Qingwan in front of her is the woman who tried to kill her in Xiaobao and also caused the death of Changyu. Then, let's settle old and new accounts together. Sixth sister, be careful. Big sister, get out of the way. Seeing this scene, Luo Yu and Su Zi are so scared that their hearts are about to jump out. Anyone can see that there's something strange about that dagger. However, just as they get up and want to rush over, they're stunned by the scene in front of them. When Lung Qingwan rushes over, Mayan suddenly turns her hand over, and there's a fluffy, little yellow chick in her palm. The little chick is still in a daze. When it was pulled out, it staggers and stands up in Mayan's palm. There's an ahogue on the top of its head, swaying back and forth. It's indescribably cute. Its big round eyes slowly widen. The little chick's sleepy eyes finally see its beloved mother, and it immediately chirps happily. However, just as its short legs step out, it steps on the edge of Mayan's palm and falls down. Two bubbles of tears suddenly appear in its big eyes. Muyin only has time to gently stroke the silly chick's head, and Lung Qingwan's attack has already arrived. She dodged to the side. The dagger flashed with a green light as it brushed past her ear. How could Lung Qingwan be willing to give up? She turned around and attacked Mu Yin in a frenzy. The remaining earth immortal power in her body poured out without hesitation. She wanted Yap Liang Chun dead. She wanted this slut to die without a burial. This time, Mu Yin didn't dodge the devourer. Instead, he raised his hand, and the 7 Absolutes' sword appeared in an instant. A sound came from the air, and the soul-binding dagger was blocked. Lung Qingwan stared blankly. This soul-binding dagger is a heavenly god artifact? How could it be blocked? However, before she could see what was blocking her, a white light flashed in front of her. The 7 Absolutes' sword disappeared. At the same time, Mu Yin, who had used stunning lotus step by step, also disappeared. Lung Qingwan immediately lost her balance and staggered forward, crashing straight into the alchemy furnace. At the same time, the last bolt of lightning fell. The 9th grade alchemy furnace, which was already on the verge of collapse, let out an ear-piercing, crackling sound. Finally, it shattered with a bang. How could this be? This alchemy furnace is too weak. It can't withstand the lightning tribulation at all. Could it be that the refining of the king elixir failed just like that? However, just when everyone was shocked and disappointed. Chapter 2500. Lung Qingwan, who had just hit the furnace, lets out a mournful shriek. Sizzle, the sound of flesh being scorched, is accompanied by a burning smell, filling the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall. Everyone looks at the scene in front of them, dumbfounded and speechless. In this strange silence, Mayan leisurely walks forward, picks up 3 glittering golden elixirs from the ground, and says with a smile, "Fairy Qingwan is really kind and charitable. I was originally thinking what to do if the 9th rank furnace couldn't withstand all the lightning tribulations. It's not impossible to block the last lightning tribulation with one's flesh and blood, but it would be very painful. I was hesitating whether or not to do it. I didn't expect that Fairy Qingwan would be anxious and bear this lightning tribulation for me." She gently turns the golden elixir in her hand. "I really have to thank Fairy Qingwan for being able to refine a king elixir." Lung Qingwan, who is lying on the ground after being struck by the lightning, and her back is still charred, finally can't bear it and spits out a mouthful of blood. Mayan gently throws one of the king elixirs into a golden cauldron in the center of the Cloud Phoenix Hall and slowly says, "Your Majesty, may I ask if you can announce the results of the pill competition?" In the dead silence, the girl's voice is particularly crisp and sweet, but it's also like the evening drum and morning bell, ruthlessly striking everyone's ears. Lonnie Tien suddenly comes back to his senses, suppressing the ecstasy in his heart, and loudly says, "We hereby announce that the pill competition is over, and the champion this time is Yi Liang Chun. I refuse to accept this." Lung Qingwan roars, crawling up from the ground. Her blood-red eyes stare at Mayan with bone-piercing hatred. "The one who refined the king elixir should be me. The winner should be me. It was you, slut, who cheated and stole my tribulation cloud. I am the real champion." "But why? Why can you steal my tribulation cloud? Why?" Mayan sneers, gently stroking the little chick's head. "Immortal Fairy Qingwan, What you need to consider now is not how I stole your tribulation cloud, but how you in North Ding Home Mansion should fulfill the bet. She raised her head and looked at Lung Qingwan's distorted but still beautiful face. She sneered, "Immortal Fairy Qingwan, you couldn't have forgotten the content of the bet, right? Immortal Fairy, don't forget that I can remind you." Su Zi chuckled. "If Immortal Fairy Qingwan loses, you have to destroy your own appearance. I've already prepared the heaven-eroding water. Immortal Fairy Qingwan, don't go back on your word." Su Zi took out the heaven-eroding water and threw it to one of his guards. The guard was an old man at the pinnacle of the astral body realm. Upon receiving the order, he immediately took the heaven-eroding water and walked towards Lung Qingwan. Lung Qingwan's expression changed greatly as she screamed, "You dare! Do you know who I am? I am an immortal from the Xiuxin continent. What qualifications do you lowly mortals have to judge me? What qualifications do you have to make me fulfill the bet? This Empress disdains to play with you bunch of trash anymore." Saying that, she turned around and rushed towards the door without hesitation. The Cloud Phoenix Hall had a barrier, but to an immortal like her, this bit of barrier was really nothing. However, just as she rushed to the door, Lung Qingwan felt her vision go black. Her whole body heavily crashed into a wall of flesh and bounced back. "Who is it? You dare to trespass into the Imperial Palace?" Lan Yiqian immediately sensed that someone had entered the Cloud Phoenix Hall's barrier and couldn't help but shout. Just then, Mayan heard a familiar voice. Chapter 25:01. Tisk, June Shang should be talking about this place, right? Miss June, why are you here? What are you doing here? At the same time, this question also resounds in Mayan's mind. She looked in astonishment at the man who had just walked in from the entrance of the Cloud Phoenix Hall. It was actually Starwolf. What was this fellow doing here? Wait a minute. Mu Yin suddenly remembered that before she had come to participate in the pill competition, her ninth master had said that he would have someone support him. It should be the flowery peacock that ninth Shifu particularly disliked and always talked about. Could Starwolf be the flower peacock that ninth master mentioned? No. With Starwolf's appearance, was he worthy of the title of flower peacock? She must be mistaken. Ninth master is cultivating to the level of devouring. How could it be so easy to get someone to come down from the immortal continent to help her? What was Starwolf doing here? Just as she's thinking, Mayan sees Xinglang striding towards Lung Qingwan. He helps her up and nervously asks, "Miss June, what's wrong? Who hurt you?" When he said the last sentence, there was an obvious killing intent in his tone. However, Muyan almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This idiot Xinglang actually thought that Lung Qingwan was her. Not only was there something wrong with this idiot's brain, but he was also blind. Lung Qingwan, who originally wanted to flee, also recognized one of Di Ming's trusted subordinates, Starwolf. She felt a burst of excitement in her heart. She rolled her eyes, and tears immediately welled up in her eyes. "Starwolf, I thought that I would never be able to see Monarch again." When Xinglang saw the pitiful and tearful June Mayan, he did not feel distressed or worried. Instead, he shuddered all over. Goosebumps rose all over his body. The female demon was crying. She was actually shedding tears. She actually calls June Shangdi June? What was going on? Is June Mayan's brain broken? Or Xinglang takes a step back, vigilantly saying, "June Mayan, are you going to mess with me again? I'm warning you. Even if I, Starwolf, die, I will absolutely not wear female clothes again." Mu Yin, what kind of image does she have in Xinglang's heart? Lung Qingwan's pitiful crying face also froze. Gritting his teeth, he cursed the Starwolf half to death. However, on the surface, he could only force himself to remain calm. "Starwolf, where's the monarch?" Starwolf frowned and looked at Lung Qingwan suspiciously and vigilantly. Didn't say anything? Lung Qingwan gritted her teeth, but the crying on her face became even more sorrowful. "Xinglang, you clearly know my identity. Could it be that you want to watch this group of people bully and humiliate me with your own eyes? The injuries on my body were all inflicted by these bitches. Furthermore, These people wanted to ruin my appearance and harm me. Have you forgotten? I'm the Emperor Lord's fiancé. Could it be that you want to watch the polar domain's mistress suffer such humiliation? Hearing this, Star Wolf immediately cast aside the doubts in his heart. No matter what tricks the Demoness was playing, she was still the future mistress of the polar domain. How could they allow others to bully them? Xing Lang sneered and said in a deep voice, "Speak. Who was it that humiliated Miss June earlier? Step out yourself, and I'll give you a quick death." "Is that so?" Mu Yin unhurriedly walked up, the corners of her mouth hooked up in a mocking arc as she looked at Star Wolf. "I really want to see how you're going to give me a quick death." Star Wolf stared blankly. This person's appearance and temperament. Why does he have a familiar feeling? You are. Chapter 2502. Lung Qingwan pretends to be pitiful and doesn't speak, but she gives Lu Yu a look. Lu Yu guessed that Xing Lang's identity and strength isn't simple, so he immediately steps forward and says, reporting to this immortal, "This person is called Yi Liangchun. These days, he has been bullying and humiliating Miss June." Xing Lang suddenly widens his eyes and stares at Mayan in disbelief, then turns to look at Lung Qingwan. Dumbfounded. Yi Liangchun, that's not right. Isn't that the female devil's alias in Tingwang ruins? Or did he remember it wrong? Could it be that the female devil's alias in Tingwang ruins wasn't Yi Liangchun? What was it called again? Xing Lang is in a mess. Lung Qingwan can't bear it anymore. Since the beginning of the pill competition, she has always been rubbed against by Yi Liangchun. This slut slaps her face again and again, and her patience has reached its limit. Thinking of Yi Liangchun's frightening talent in alchemy, endless jealousy and panic rises in her heart. Lung Qingwan feels that she can't let Yi Liangchun stay. As long as Yi Liangchun is alive, whether it's a reputation, status, or schemes, they will all become bubbles. Lung Qingwan steps forward and sternly says, "Xing Lang, what are you hesitating for? I told you to kill this slut, didn't you hear me?" Xing Lang tightly frowns and suspiciously looks at the woman in front of him. Are you really June Mayan? This face is indeed very beautiful. Even in the Xiaoxian continent, where there is an immortal atmosphere, it's very rare to see such a stunning appearance. But Xing Lang feels that something isn't quite right. Does the female devil look like this? It's all his fault that he either hated June Mayan or feared the female devil. So he didn't look at the future mistress of the polar domain carefully. For a moment, he can't judge with his naked eyes. Lung Qingwan panics and raises her voice. "Xing Lang, what do you mean by that? Are you doubting my identity?" Luo Yu sneers. "Your fake identity has been exposed several times. Is there still a need to doubt it?" As soon as this is said, the others in the Cloud Phoenix Hall also whispers. "I also remember that this June Qingwan has been exposed as a fake, right? Then is she June Mayan or not?" Lung Qingwan knew that Luo Yu had followed Yap Liangchun here, and her heart was filled with hatred towards these people. Her cold gaze sweeps over everyone present, and finally falls on Xing Lang. She does her utmost to release her pressure in an imposing manner. "Xing Lang, you have to think clearly. If I'm not June Mayan, then who am I? Is there anyone else in this world who looks like me?" Immediately, Lung Qingwan's sharp gaze turns towards Mayan. "You're saying that I'm an imposter? Then I would like to ask, where is the real June Mayan? If you have the ability, then let your so-called supreme Mayan come out and confront me, ah?" Luo Yu gritted her teeth and spat. This stupid imposter was just relying on the fact that his sixth sister didn't want to expose Yi Liangchun's identity. How shameless! Seeing that Mayan and Luo Yu are silent, the smile on Lung Qingwan's face becomes more and more complacent. "What? Can't find it? Why do you have to say that I'm a fake?" Her gaze falls on Xing Lang again. At this time, the delicate and pitiful look on her face has already disappeared, replaced by an aloof arrogance and overbearingness. "Xing Lang, don't forget what your identity is, and what my identity is. If you dare to disobey my orders, do you believe that I won't let Monarch expel you from the polar domain immediately?" Chapter 25:03. Star Wolf was speechless for a moment. What he feared the most was being expelled from the polar domain and not being able to serve by Emperor's side. And he had offended Mayan in too many ways, fearing that Mayan would find him to settle accounts. Lung Qingwan saw the fear that flashed in Star Wolf's eyes and became increasingly arrogant. Pointing at Mayan, she said, "Kill this slut for me right now. I can consider it as atonement for your crimes and allow you to continue staying in the polar domain." Star Wolf's brows tightly wrinkled, momentarily in a dilemma. Everyone in the Cloud Phoenix Hall was confused, not understanding what was going on. Everyone didn't recognize Star Wolf, only knowing that his cultivation was extremely high, so high that even the peak of leaving body stage present couldn't fathom his actual strength. Moreover, the words polar domain and monarch in his conversation with Lung Qingwan caused everyone to scratch their heads in confusion. Only Zhou Daoi and the others could vaguely guess the identity of the person who came. They stepped forward and blocked in front of Mayan, saying anxiously, "This immortal, you must not harm June. Miss Yi, otherwise it will be too late for regrets." Oh my, he was really worried to death. If Miss June still refused to reveal her identity, wouldn't that bullshit immortal fairies plot succeed? Lu Yu laughed cruelly at the side. "Principal Zhou, in order to win the pill competition, your Long Tongue Academy and this Yi Liangshun really stopped at nothing." Long Tongue's background was deep, using despicable means to deceive and humiliate. "Miss June, we dare not say anything, but now the person supporting Miss June has come. Zhou Daoi, you still dare to stop the immortal from standing up for Miss June? He, really arrogant and despotic, not putting the immortal in his eyes." Chu Mingquan immediately said, "Immortal, these few bastards really bullied Miss June. You must kill them and take revenge for Miss June." Zhou Daoi was so angry that he fell down. He had never seen such a shameless person. And this wolf, he was obviously the confidant of Emperor. How could he be so stupid? At this point, who was the real master? He still couldn't recognize her? Zhou Daoi was full of bitterness and grievance. He could only look at Mayan. He could only hope that Mu Yin can quickly remove the disguise and ruthlessly slap this imposter's face. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth hooks up into a cold arc, but she doesn't say anything. It seems like the time he sent the Star Wolf to drunk life, dreaming death was not long enough. The lesson he received was not enough. This guy was itching for a beating again. Star Wolf had already walked in front of her and said in a deep voice, "Who exactly are you?" At such a close distance, he can see the disguise on Mu Yan's face. He can't help but lower his voice. "Show me your true face?" Mayan sneers. "You want me to show my true face?" "Sorry, who do you think you are?" Xing Lang's face stiffened. This familiar tone of disdain and indolent disdain made his heart churn. In the next moment, he heard Mu Yan's unhurried but somewhat malicious voice. "Looks like the last time you were drunk and dreaming didn't teach you enough of a lesson." Star Wolf suddenly opened his eyes wide, his body trembling uncontrollably. He almost blurted out, "How did you know? You are." Before he could finish speaking, suddenly the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall slightly shook. Lan Yitian was first startled, feeling that the barrier was invaded by a powerful energy. But this time, before he could speak, a terrible pressure instantly enveloped the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall. Chapter 25:04. In an instant, the originally noisy hall fell into absolute silence. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at the entrance. Looking at the man who walked in, they could only exclaim in their hearts, "Holy shit! How could there be such a handsome man in this world?" The man who had appeared at the entrance was as handsome as jade, unparalleled in elegance. His handsome facial features were as if they were sculpted by the gods, and there wasn't the slightest flaw to be found on him. The so-called dragon and phoenix appearance, natural and natural. After the exclamation, there was a kind of fear and submission from the bottom of their hearts. Almost everyone unconsciously stood up and lowered their eyes. Their hearts were thumping nonstop and their faces were burning hot, but they didn't even have the courage to look up again. Even Lan Etienne and Bai Wei unconsciously stood up, shocked and aghast at the man who was slowly walking in. At this moment, they only felt that this man was the Real Supreme King. What Lan Empire's royal family, in front of him, was nothing, and Zhou Daoyi and Chu Zongsheng, who knew the man's identity, had already knelt down with a thud. The greetings to the emperor was already at their throats, but they swallowed it back. Emperor, Lung Xingwan's eyes suddenly welled up with tears. Her eyes were infatuated and delicate as she looked at the man who walked in, her delicate body trembling slightly. Emperor, Mayan finally sees you again. She looked like a little woman who had been wronged and couldn't help but vent and seek comfort and protection from her lover. It also made the people of the Cloud Phoenix Hall feel indescribable shock. Who was this mysterious man who suddenly appeared? What was his relationship with Jun Qingwan? Could it be that he really came to support Jun Qingwan? Many of Liangshan's supporters couldn't help but clench their fists, their hearts breaking out in cold sweat for their idol. Because this mysterious man's strength was too strong. He was so strong that without knowing his cultivation level, without needing him to use any spells, everyone could feel the overwhelming gap. And the shock in Mayan's heart was no less than the others. Her gaze fell on Di Ming, and she blinked again and again. Divine imprint. From Di Ming's body, she actually felt the imprint of her ninth master's divine imprint. So the shameless peacock that attracted bees and butterflies was Di Ming. While he was still in shock, he heard Lung Qingwan say those nauseating words. Instantly, his face turned ashen, and a sea of jealousy surged. Devour, when he saw that the woman was looking at Di Ming with a face that was similar to his own, he became even angrier. The joy of reuniting after such a long time had been replaced by anger. Muyan suddenly stopped herself from hugging Di Ming and sneers coldly. She recalled that she was now disguised as Yap Liangshun. She wants to see if Di Ming will mistake Lung Qingwan for Jun Mayan, like Xinglang, if she doesn't go up to acknowledge him. If he really dared to make a mistake. Mayan clenched her fists so tightly that they creaked. In her mind, she was already calculating what other spiritual fruits were suitable for kneeling besides the golden Bodhi fruit. Just as he was thinking about this, the man turned around and his gaze fell on Muyan. Almost at the same time, Muyan feels that in her sea of consciousness, the divine sense imprint that her master left behind is faintly heating up. She knew that Di Ming was also activating his soul consciousness to find the Medicine King's successor. Their gazes met. The man stared blankly for a moment. Then a scorching flame suddenly ignited in the depths of his ice-blue eyes. Chapter 25:05. It feels like he's going to swallow her up. Muyan takes a step back subconsciously. Then, she quickly stabilizes her body. Don't panic. Her current appearance is Yi Liangshan. And because Di Ming can't enter Tianguang ruins, he has never seen her appearance. So, he shouldn't know that she is Jun Mayan, right? Yes, he definitely can't swallow her. He knows. While she is thinking about it, Di Ming has already strode in front of her, bent down, and whispered in her ear. The man's unique breath is blowing in her ear, bringing a warm feeling that makes her blush and her heart beat faster. Muyan's legs soften. She almost thinks that she will hear Yin Yin next. Who knows? The man gently spits out 3 words in her ear. Han, Chujio's apprentice? Muyan immediately calms down. Sure enough, Di Ming really came to support Jiao Shifu's apprentice. So, he didn't recognize her? Muyan is very glad at this time. The disguise on her face makes people unable to see the change of her mood. But when she thinks that Di Ming can't recognize her, Muyan inexplicably feels stifled. This bastard, I just changed my appearance. He actually can't recognize me. Could it be that she would mistake Lung Qingwan for Jun Mayan? Thinking of this possibility, she can't keep a straight face. Because she is too emotional, Muyan doesn't notice that the man standing next to her is looking at her. His eyes are full of tenderness. The corner of his mouth gently hooks up into a shallow smile. But Lung Qingwan can't accept it more than Mu Yan. Her pair of beautiful eyes are full of tears. She looks at Di Ming for a long time and speaks to him affectionately and pitifully. But Di Ming doesn't even look at her. He goes to Yu Liangchun, that bitch, and he speaks so intimately to Mu Yan's ear. What does that bitch have? Why? With such an ugly and ordinary face, how could she seduce Di Jun? How could she steal my limelight? Di Jun! Lung Qingwan shouts. Di Jun, what are you doing? I am Jun Mayan, your fiancé. Why don't you look at me, but at other women? Her words finally attract Di Ming's attention. His unperturbed gaze falls on Lung Qingwan's face. When he sees that face that is 70% similar to Mayan's, his blue eyes instantly became as cold as ice, bursting forth with a bone-piercing chill. However, this chill was instantly restrained. Unhurriedly. You said you're Jun Mayan. Yes, I'm Jun Mayan. Lung Qingwan finally let Di Ming look at her. Her face is flushed with excitement. She fiddled with her hair, trying to make her face look flawless. Thinking of how much Di Ming doted on that slut Jun Mayan, the relationship between the two might not be ordinary. Yes, I really miss you. I really miss you. Lung Qingwan called out the most affectionate form of address. She took a step forward and was about to throw herself into Di Ming's arms. The affection in her eyes was almost overflowing. However, in the next moment, her entire body was sent flying. She crashed heavily onto the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. No one noticed when Lung Qingwan was sent flying backwards. A ray of faint blue light, with lightning speed, entered Lung Qingwan's body and disappeared without a trace. Lung Qingwan struggled to get up. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Lu Yu and Chu Mingquan were even more dumbfounded. They had just guessed that this person who was called Di Jun must have come from the Xiaoxin continent. Moreover, even in the Xiaoxin continent, his identity must be extraordinary. Chapter 2506. If Jun Qingwan is really this Di Jun's fiancé, then the benefits that North Ding Home Manor can obtain would be immeasurable. And they also believe that no man in the world would be able to refuse a peerless beauty like Jun Qingwan throwing herself into his arms. However, to their surprise, not to mention accepting the embrace, Di Ming Ju directly kicks the person out without any tender feelings for the fairer sex. After kicking her, he turns to look at Mayan and uses his deep magnetic voice to slowly say, "Is it enough to support you?" Mayan, so he really came to support Ninth Master's disciple? If it's still not enough, Di Ming Ju steps towards Mayan. Mayan subconsciously steps back, but before she can take 2 steps back, she's already against the pillar of the Cloud Phoenix Hall. There's nowhere to retreat. The man's figure and the familiar aura, with a strong aggressiveness, completely surround her. His slender fingers pressed against the pillar, blocking her from moving sideways to avoid it. If it's still not enough, Ben Jun can still do a little more, a little better. From the side, it looks like a tall and handsome man is gently caressing a young girl's soft cheeks. That posture was indescribably ambiguous. The Cloud Phoenix Hall is completely silent. Everyone's eyes widen, their mouths open as they watch this scene. Their hearts are in turmoil. Fuck, fuck, fuck. It turns out that this godlike handsome man isn't Jun Qingwan's fiancé, but has an affair with Great Godyi, Lung Qingwan, who has just recovered from the pain of her broken ribs and sees the scene in front of her, simply goes crazy. Di Jun, what are you doing? I'm Jun Mayan. I'm your fiancé. She screams and pounces over, wanting to hug Di Ming Ju. Di Jun, look at me. Look at my stunning appearance. How can this ugly slut compare to me? This time, Lung Qingwan finally rushes in front of Di Ming Ju. The pear blossom's tear-stained face is raised high, looking at Di Ming Ju with infatuation and longing. In fact, Lung Qingwan isn't clear about the extent of the relationship between Di Ming Ju and Jun Mayan. Therefore, she doesn't dare to keep saying, "I am Jun Mayan," to provoke Di Ming Ju. She's afraid that when Di Ming Ju learns that Jun Mayan was killed by Lung Yuexia, he would fly into a terrible rage and vent his anger on her. But Lung Qingwan has always believed that the reason why Junmayan could attract Diming Ju is because of her face. As long as she has Junmayan's face, as long as Dijun looks at her, he will be completely attracted to her. And this time, Diming Ju can finally see her face up close. Lung Qingwan was so excited that she even blinked her eyes, revealing what she thought was her most charming expression. However, in the next moment, the man's cold voice was heard saying slowly, "You're the one who bullied my fiancé in Tianguang ruins? Is Benjuan's fiancé someone you can bully as you please?" As he spoke, he placed his hand on Mayan's shoulder and pressed her directly into his embrace. Muyin jerks her head to look at him. Did this guy recognize her? Diming Ju's face shows a faintly discernible smile. He slightly bends down, his thin lips close to her ear, and hoarsely says, "Didn't your master ask Benjun to pretend to be your fiancé? Yin, Miss Yi, don't take offense." Before Mayan could react, Lung Qingwan has already screamed in disbelief. "Impossible! How could this ugly freak be your fiancé? This is absolutely impossible." Chapter 25:07. During this period of time, Lung Qingwan has experienced being abandoned by the polar domain, Tian Yimin being destroyed, and living under someone else's roof. Her life is worse than a dog's. She thought that when she came to the Xiozhen continent, she could be high and mighty, casually stepping on mortals and ants, and receive everyone's amazement and worship. She didn't expect to be stepped on by this woman called Yi Liangshun again and again, humiliated and slapped in the face, falling from the high clouds to the dust. She has experienced this kind of terrible torture and blow again and again. What high and mighty fairy's demeanor, what Tian Yimin's young master's majesty, they have long been used up. Her spirit has long been on the verge of collapse. His only hope was the magnificent quicksand, a face that resembled Junmayan. From seeing Dijun to devouring him. Then, she can get Dijun's favor, and from then on, she can step on everyone. However, reality once again gives her a hard slap in the face. Diming would rather hug Yi Liangshun, the ugly monster, than take another look at her. Why? Why? Isn't she beautiful enough? Isn't her status higher than that ugly monster? She finally got rid of Junmayan, that bitch. Why does Yi Liangshun come out? It would be good if there were no such bitches. Dijun's eyes would fall on her, and he would be infatuated with her. Yes, as long as there is no Yi Liangshun, Dijun will definitely like her. Lung Qingwan's eyes burst out with twisted and ferocious hatred, and she madly rushes towards Mayan. The soul-binding dagger in her hand emits an eerie green light. Seeing her rushing over, Mayan sneers and is about to take out the 7 absolute swords. However, the next moment, her whole body has been tightly embraced into a familiar embrace. How can I trouble Madam with this matter? Benjun will do it. As soon as the voice falls, Mayan hears Lung Qingwan scream. Lung Qingwan was sent flying backwards and crashed into a desk. She only had a few broken ribs before, but this time, she almost can't even stand up. She suddenly spits out several mouthfuls of blood. Her face and body were also covered with overturned dishes and wine. Her originally stunning appearance instantly became embarrassing and laughable. Lung Qingwan's body keeps twitching, and her ears are buzzing. She didn't believe it. She didn't believe that with such a beautiful face, the emperor would still treat her like this. Body, yes. She wanted to display her beautiful body in front of the emperor. The emperor would definitely be head over heels for her. Just as she was about to get up, she suddenly heard a clear and melodious voice of a youth above her. I've finally found an opportunity. Immortal Fairy Qingwan, you wouldn't have forgotten the bet you made with Great God Yi before the medicinal pill competition, right? The loser will have to use the sky eroding water to disfigure himself. Lung Qingwan raised her head in horror and saw a youth holding a brown bottle looking down at her from above. A cute and obedient smile appeared on his handsome face. The mole under her left eye flickered slightly, exuding a sense of charm. Lung Qingwan opened her mouth wide, wanting to scream, wanting to escape. However, not a single sound came out of her mouth. Her entire body was sore and powerless, unable to move at all. She could only watch as the brown bottle tipped over slightly. The colorless, odorless liquid flowed out and splashed onto her face. The smell of burnt flesh, accompanied by severe pain, made Lung Qingwan let out a heart-wrenching scream. Chapter 25:08. Everyone in the Cloud Phoenix Hall had witnessed it with their own eyes, an incomparably beautiful face. How did his face become so full of potholes that even ghosts would feel disgusted at the sight of it? He looked at Su Zi with fear in his eyes. Many people knew that the Su family's young master had a heart disease. Those who had met him all said that his aptitude was excellent, but it was a pity that he couldn't cultivate. His heart was pure and kind, but he was too weak and easy to bully. Later, there was another rumor that the young master's heart disease had been cured, and the entire Su family was wild with joy. Old Master Su even declared that he would hand over the Su family to his grandson. Everyone thought that Old Master Su had gone mad. The entire Su family had gone mad. How could they allow a weak young master who had been raised in an ivory tower to inherit the Su family? Wasn't this just waiting for the Su family to be defeated and destroyed in 100 years? However, at this moment, when they saw Su Zi's smile and unhesitant action of ruining Lung Qingwan's face, everyone shuddered. Damn it, who said that the Su family's young master was easy to bully? Wasn't he lying through his teeth? After ruining Lung Qingwan's face, Su Zi finally felt completely at ease. From the moment he saw this bitch come out with the face of a young lady, he couldn't stand it anymore. He wanted to rush over and tear off this face. Su Zi retracted the heaven-eroding water and rushed to Mu Yin happily, wanting to hug her arm to claim credit. Little goddess Yi, I've finally destroyed this woman's mask. Are you happy? However, before he could get close, he met God's cold gaze of death. Does this monarch's fiancé need your protection? Of course, Su Zi knew Di Ming, and he also knew that this Minter Mo was the fiancé of Little Missy. Hearing this, he couldn't help but shrink his neck and was about to retreat. Unexpectedly, Mu Yin pushes Di Ming away and slowly walks up to him. She touches his head and says, "Well done. It's to my liking." Su Zi, his listless, handsome face immediately blossomed like a flower, and he smiled foolishly. If he had a tail, it would probably be wagging at this moment. Mu Yin doesn't look at Jun Shangdaren's face that is as black as the bottom of a pot. Slowly walking to the front of Lung Qingwan, who was covering her face, he looked down at her and said coldly, "Why don't you tell me? In the end, how did you manage to make your appearance resemble Mayan's?" "No, it wasn't similar. I'm Jun Mayan. I am the Emperor's fiancée, the future mistress of the polar domain. I am Jun Mayan. Ha ha ha." Lung Qingwan let out a maniacal laugh. "Do you think that the sky-eroding water can ruin my peerless beauty? No way, no way. I won't allow it." As she shouted, she took out a bunch of pills from her storage ring and stuffed them into her mouth. At the same time, the last bit of immortal qi in his dantian was released. She had nothing left. Only this face she must protect. The sky-eroding water was indeed powerful, but at the end of the day, it was only an item from the cultivation continent. Under the situation where Lung Qingwan didn't hesitate to use all of the immortal qi in her body to activate the medicine's effects, her uneven and ugly face actually began to regain its smoothness. "Ha ha ha! I knew it. I knew that no one could ruin my peerless beauty. I am Jun Mayan. I am Jun Mayan's most beloved woman, the future mistress of the polar domain. Ha ha ha!" However, halfway through her laughter, Lung Qingwan couldn't continue laughing, because she discovered that everyone's eyes were firmly fixed on her. Everyone's faces were showing a mixture of shock, strangeness, and ridicule. Chapter 25:09. The Dust Settles. 1. Soon after, the whispers of the crowd reach Lung Qingwan's ears. The face that was ruined by the heaven-eroding water can actually be restored. No, wait, why is this face different from just now? Although it can be considered somewhat good-looking, it's clearly completely different from Great God June's. I already said that she's a fake. What qualifications does this kind of ugly trash have to be compared with our Great God June? Bah, with that face of hers, she still has the nerve to say that our Great God Yi is ugly. What a big face. Our Great God Yi is much more beautiful than her. Lung Qingwan listens to the murmurs of the crowd, and her body uncontrollably trembles. She tremblingly takes out a lioli glass and slowly raises it in front of her eyes. In the mirror, there's a woman who can be considered somewhat good-looking. But this beauty is completely incomparable to Jun Muyen's original stunning beauty. That's clearly Lung Qingwan's own face. When she wore Jun Mayan's face, even if it was distorted and sinister, even if her hair was disheveled, there was still a trace of fragile beauty. But at this very moment, when this kind of embarrassing appearance is replaced by Lung Qingwan's own appearance, it only makes people feel unspeakably funny and nauseating. Star Wolf stares at her face for a long time, and suddenly exclaims, "Lung Qingwan, you're the remnant of Tian Yi Min, Lung Qingwan." He abruptly turns to look at Di Mingju, but he sees that there's not a trace of surprise on Di Mingju's face, and his eyes don't leave Mayan for even a moment. From the beginning to the end, Jun Shangdaran has never put this imposter in his eyes. He only kept her because he recognized who she was at first glance and wanted to use her to catch other big fish. Star Wolf immediately feels ashamed of his inferiority, wishing he could find a hole to burrow into. Such a disgusting woman. He almost mistook her for a female devil just now. And he even mistook her in front of the main character. He turns his head to look at the indifferent Mu Yin, and his body subconsciously shivers. It's over. This time, the female devil will definitely kill him. Mu Yin sneers, and with a backhand grab, she pulls out a long sword from the Star Wolf's waist and presses it against Lung Qingwan's throat. Tell me, how did you manage to make your face resemble Jun Mayan's? Where are your accomplices? Star Wolf looked at his empty scabbard and lowered his head, not even daring to let out a fart. Lung Qingwan regains her senses from the shock of her mental collapse. She only feels despair. She looked at Di Mingju and cried loudly. Di Jun, I am Qingwan. Do you still remember me? You must remember me, right? I am your fiancé. Yes, I am your fiancé, the future mistress of the polar domain. That Jun Mayan and that ugly Yi Liangshun are just mistresses who inserted themselves into our relationship. There's no one in this world who loves you more than I do. Emperor, you definitely won't abandon me, right? Emperor, have you forgotten the wonderful times we once spent in the polar domain? Mu Yin turns her head and coldly glances at Di Mingju. Jun Shangdaran immediately dissociates himself. Ben Jun did not. Mu Yin sneers, whether you have it or not. What does it have to do with me? Even if you had 8 or 10 fiancés in the past, this young lady has no interest in them. But this woman, I must kill her. In the Yinwu continent, she caused Chang Yu's death, almost separating her and Xiao Bao's flesh and blood. In the Xiojin continent, she forced her into desperate straits again and again. She even used her face, impersonated her identity, and tried in vain to snatch everything from her. Chapter 25:10. The dust settles. 2. Mu Yin throws the sword in her hand. The sword whistles and goes straight for Lung Qingwan's chest. However, at some point in time, Liu had actually quietly arrived behind Lung Qingwan. When the sword pierces Lung Qingwan's chest, Liu takes out a sack and covers Lung Qingwan and himself. Then there's a puffing sound and white smoke. The two figures completely disappear from Cloud Phoenix Hall. Mu Yan's eyes turn cold. Ran away? Huh, do you think you can run away? She turns to leave Cloud Phoenix Hall to chase after them. She has only taken 2 steps when she is hugged by Di Mingju. Wait, Mu Yin says coldly. What? You can't bear to kill your fiancé? Di-Ming Ju smiles lightly. Who is Ben Jun's fiancé? Didn't I just say it clearly? Mu Yin is about to speak when she hears Di-Ming Ju whispering in her ear. Ben Jun is already letting Mei follow them. What's the use of catching Lung Qingwan? The ghost behind her is the one that Ben Jun wants to get rid of. That ghost behind her? Mu Yin instantly thinks of the crazy woman who wants to kill her. Obviously, that woman's cultivation is much higher than Lung Qingwan's, and her shrewdness is also far deeper than Lung Qingwan's. This person is still alive, and her whereabouts are unknown. This is the reason why Mu Yin doesn't dare to show up as Ju Mu Yin. Mu Yin glares at Di-Ming Ju and is about to speak. She hears Zhou Daoi yell, Chu Mingquan, where do you want to go? As soon as Mayan turns her head, she sees Chu Mingquan sneakily trying to slip away. After being called, he not only doesn't stop, he even madly rushes to the entrance of Cloud Phoenix Hall. However, he hasn't taken 2 steps when he is kicked back by Xinglang. Xinglang, Jun Shang is here. Without Jun Shang's permission, who dares to leave? Chu Mingquan is dizzy from the kick. When he looks up, there is obvious panic in his eyes. You, what do you want to do? Do you know who I am? I am from Dingwa Manor. Mayan sneers, stepping on his head with 1 foot. I don't care if you're from the Dingwa Marquis Manor or whatever it is. If you're willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Don't you understand? Chu Mingquan stuttered. I don't understand what you're talking about. Mu Yin fiercely exerts force on his feet, and Chu Mingquan immediately lets out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. She said slowly, Hand over the celestial dragon city. Now, do you understand? Chu Mingquan trembled all over and shook his head in horror. I can't make the decision. I have to go back and report to the Marquis. Before he could finish, Chu Tianyu took a step forward and said, Miss, the City Lord token is in Chu Mingquan's hands. As long as you have the City Lord's token, whether it's the defense formation or the troop station inside, you can mobilize them at will. Chu Mingquan's eyes widened as he stared at Chu Tianyu in shock. You, how did you know? Who are you? Chu Tianyu slowly smiled. Who am I? I am someone who crazily desires for the Dingwa Manor and Chu Xinyan to go to hell and be consigned to eternal damnation. This guy is about to die, yet he still dares to hide something. Luo, you angrily said, Sixth sister, give him to me. I will definitely make him spit out the thing. Mu Yin smiled and raised her hand, directly knocking Chu Mingquan out. So disobedient, it's better to bring him back to third brother for training. Luo, you. Sixth sister, this move of yours is really ruthless. Chapter 25:11. The dust settles. 3. Those who have been trained by the perverted third senior brother were 100 times more miserable than death. At this point, the alchemy competition came to an end. The rewards for the champion of the alchemy competition were exceptionally generous, but Mu Yin did not accept them. She threw them all to the Dragon Soaring Academy. As for the invitations from the Lan family empire, the Sex and aristocratic families, and the other continent's imperial families, Mayan refused them without the slightest hesitation. As for those who tried every possible way to find out her true identity, she simply ignored them. The group of them took the lead in leaving the Cloud Phoenix Hall and headed in the direction of the Dragon Soaring Academy. After walking out of the Cloud Phoenix Hall, the Star Wolf suddenly turned around and threw out an array disc. The array disc floated above the Cloud Phoenix Hall and gradually expanded. Finally, it transformed into a huge blue net that enveloped the entire Cloud Phoenix Hall. Then, it disappeared without a trace. Zhou Daoi asked cautiously, Emperor Immortal, may I ask what this is? Star Wolf said indifferently. I'm just making them forget what they shouldn't remember. For example, Di-Ming Ju's face and some conversations about the Xioshan continent. The stronger one was, the greater the karma of the heavenly Tao would place on a cultivator. The space barrier can stop Xinglang and Lung Yuexia, but can't stop Di-Ming Ju. But at the same time, Di-Ming Ju's actions in the Xioshan continent have caused too much of an impact or attracted too much attention. This would trigger the karma of the heavenly Tao and ultimately cause a backlash against Di Mingju. Hearing that, Zhou Daoi doesn't dare to say anything more. He wants to say something, but then hesitates. His gaze looks at Mayan from time to time, then looks at Di Mingju. He seemed to want to say something, but he didn't dare to. Does the emperor know that Yap Liangshun is Miss June? Is he aware that Yap Liangshun is Miss June? If he didn't know, why would he call Yap Liangshun his fiancée in front of everyone? But if they knew, why did the two of them act like they were strangers? Executive Zhou expressed that he didn't understand and was so tired. The flying ship soon arrived at Dragon Soaring Academy. As soon as they entered the Tianlang Palace, Yin Ruhan and the others immediately came to greet them. Lung Yumal pulled Luo Yu's ear and said angrily, "You heartless Shao Qi, going to the palace is such a fun thing, and you didn't call me along." Fourth senior sister, it hurts. Yin Ruhan asked, "Junior sister, what's the outcome of the pill competition?" He, eldest senior brother, aren't you spouting nonsense? With sixth senior sister making a move, there's no reason for her not to take first place. Luo Yu suddenly thought of something. All right, third senior brother, we also brought back a toy for you. He, if you have fun, you have to help sixth senior sister dig out what she wants. Mu Yin stretched herself and said with a faint smile, "I'm a little tired. I'm going to rest first." In this 1 month, she practically did not rest for a single day. All of her energy was focused on refining pills. It was just an exaggeration for others to say that it could be broken into two in 2 hours. She had actually divided the 2 hours into 12 hours. Others had only seen her learn how to refine 10th grade elixirs in a month, and she had even slaughtered the pill competition's 4 rankings. How could he know how much effort she had put in and how much she had spent during this period of time? Yin Ruhan and the others hurriedly urged her to rest. After Mu Yin left, Luo Yu yawned and was about to go rest. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks, remembering something that he had forgotten. Where's Teacher Mo? As soon as Mayan enters the room, she feels her wrist tighten, and she's being yanked away. Without waiting for her to struggle, her body is firmly pinned against the wall. The man's familiar breath, accompanied by a scorching heat, breathes into her ears. Chapter 25:12. The dark, hoarse voice suppresses a surging desire. How? After Ben Jun supported you, you want to burn the bridge after crossing the river? Fiancé. Mayan struggles, but she can't break free from the man's grip. She can only give him a ruthless kick. You recognized me a long time ago. Bastard, he actually pretends not to recognize her, and has a businesslike attitude like he was sent by little Jio's master to support her. Di Ming reaches out his hand and gently brushes her face. The girl's somewhat dark yellow skin becomes as delicate and fair as congealed fat. In a split second, her originally ordinary facial features are like a dusty pearl that has been dusted off, emitting a dazzling brilliance. Di Ming chuckles. Yin Yin, even if you turn into ashes, Ben Jun would never mistake you. Did you think that Ben Jun recognized you? Recognized your skin? This sentence was not only telling Mu Yin that Di Ming had recognized her disguise at first glance. It's also telling her that even if Lung Qingwan has a face similar to hers, Jun Shangduran would never mistake her for even the slightest bit. Most of the resentment in Mayan's heart dissipates in an instant, replaced by joy and sweetness. Di Ming leans close to her ear and whispers, Ben Jun's answer to this question, does it count as a full score? Mayan gives him a sidelong glance. It's already good enough to give you a pass, but you still expect a full score. Don't you think about who told me that Tiani men had already been destroyed, and that I don't need to worry. Di Ming is sluggish, slightly lowering his eyes. He says in a hoarse voice, it's Ben Jun's fault. Thinking of that day, when Mayan was hunted down and almost lost her life, it's hair-raising. Thinking of Lung Qingwan's face that resembles Mayan's and the numerous conspiracies hidden behind it. Di Ming's heart palpitates. This time it's his fault. Cutting weeds without removing the roots has brought hidden dangers to Mayan, almost causing her to die, and also consigning himself to eternal damnation. Yin, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. Listening to the man's hoarse voice filled with pain and remorse, Mayan's heart softens. This isn't what you wanted. You don't have to. The word self-blame hasn't left her mouth. Deming has already grabbed Mayan's hand and pressed it against his chest, slowly saying, the mistake is too serious. There's no way to make it up. Benjun can only devote my life to you as compensation. Mayan, Deming, as the fucking polar domain's sovereign lord, can you be any more shameless? The shocked expression on the young girl's face was especially cute. Deming felt a fire burning in his chest. Remembering that Mu Yin is Han Chuji's apprentice, he couldn't help but feel his blood boiling. He grabs the back of Mayan's neck and brings her in front of him. Unable to restrain himself, he kisses her heavily. Yin, so it turns out that the Medicine King's disciple is the one who developed the antidote and saved me and the polar domain. Scorching kisses fell on the girl's forehead, nose tip, and lips. It was filled with endless love and passion. I never knew that my Yin was actually so powerful that his life was extended by her hands. Mayan lightly snorts. This is the first day you know how powerful this lady is. Devoured, his breathing is slightly ragged, his voice hoarse. I don't know either. The peacock that little Joe's master mentioned, who likes to attract bees and butterflies, is Enchantress. By the way, what kind of poison did you get back then? Why did little Joe's master say that you were deeply poisoned and you were so heavily injured, but he didn't tell me? Oh, all the voices disappear in Deming's kiss. When they separate, Mayan only feels that her whole body is about to faint. Chapter 25:13. 1 second. Remember, LoveNet, to provide you with exciting reading. Suddenly, Mayan comes back to her senses and grits her teeth. Are you trying to change the subject? Tell me honestly, how badly were your injuries? Deming Ju smiles as he grabs her struggling hands, softly saying, Yin, Benjun is fine right now. How could something happen to him? If Yin doesn't believe me, I might as well let you examine it right now. Mu Yin kicks the man. Don't pretend to be stupid. Today's matter is over. Jun Shangdaran, your real fiancé, the one you grew up with, Qingwan Xinji, is still waiting for you to save her and cherish her. After saying that, she took advantage of the man's distraction to turn around and hide. However, before he could take 2 steps, he was pulled back and pressed against the wall again. Benjun has always only had one fiancé. That's you, Jun Mayan. Deming Ju looks at the girl in front of him. As for what childhood sweetheart, Benjun does not recognize it. He paused for a moment, then slowly said, Before I became an adult, I didn't have anyone by my side. It was only after I returned from the cultivation world's calamity that defeating armies started following me. There had never been a childhood sweetheart, no matter if it was a man or a woman. From start to finish, the position at Benjun's side has only been left for Jun Mayan alone. Mayan's cheeks redden, and the corners of her mouth can't help but curve up, but she forcibly suppresses it. Her heart was filled with sweetness and softness. He also thought to himself, Jun Shangdaran is really getting better and better at saying sweet words and honeyed words. According to Bai Xie's words, it was the 10th level of love talk, and it seemed like he was self-taught. As for this Lung Qingwan, Deming Ju's gaze turns cold. In the past, Tian Yimen's Lung Yuexia had some kindness towards my father. Therefore, my father told the polar domain to take care of the Tian Yimen. Humph, Benjun didn't know that a single sentence of taking care of them would cause these people to have ambitions that they shouldn't have. At that time, I annihilated the Tian Yimen, but I let Lung Yuexia and Lung Qingwan escape. I originally thought that under the pursuit of the whole region, they wouldn't be able to escape even if they grew wings. I didn't expect them to actually come to the cultivation continent. Deming Ju slightly narrows his eyes. If one wanted to travel from the Xioshan continent to the Xioshan continent, they would need to pass through the barrier of time and space. Moreover, the space-time barrier was not something that could be easily passed through. One way was to use a space-time treasure like the universe mirror, which was also the safest way. However, Such space-time treasures were extremely rare. The other method is to pass through the gap in the space-time barrier and enter the cultivation world. This method had a certain degree of danger, and the higher the cultivation of the cultivator, the greater the chance of being devoured by the spatial barrier. However, even if it was the second method, not everyone could do it, because in the entire Shoshin continent, there were only a few dozen such space-time rifts. Each place was controlled by a sect or family. Lung Qingwan and Lung Yuexiao were chased by the polar domain like stray dogs. It was reasonable to say that it was simply impossible for them to find the space-time gap and come to the cultivation continent. The only possibility was that someone had taken them in and allowed them to pass through the space-time rift. In the end, it almost caused irreversible damage to Mu Yin. Thinking of this, Di Mingju's heart surges with a violent, murderous intent. This time, he must track down Lung Qingwan, follow the vines to the melon, and exterminate all the demons and monsters behind the scenes. He would never allow anyone in this world to threaten Mayan's safety. In a secluded courtyard, Lung Qingwan suddenly opens her eyes and screams in horror, "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I am Jun Mayan. I am Di Jun's fiancé. No one can kill me." Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 2514. 1 second remember, LoveNet, providing you with exciting reading. Before the scream ended, a whip ruthlessly lashed Lung Qingwan's body, directly turning her into a bloody mess. Lung Qingwan screamed and looked up at the person holding the whip. "Lu Yu, you dare? Who do you think you are? You actually dare to hit?" Without waiting for her to finish speaking, the whip in Lu Yu's hand had already fallen like raindrops. Lung Qingwan kept screaming and rolling on the ground. She wanted to use her immortal energy, but in the Cloud Phoenix Hall, in order to refine the Imperial Pill and restore her appearance, the immortal energy in her body had been completely exhausted. When she wanted to borrow the spiritual energy of the Shoshin continent, she suddenly discovered that her Dantian seemed to be enveloped by a layer of strange energy, losing the ability to communicate with heaven and earth. Lung Qingwan was simply shocked and angry. What did you do to me?" Lu Yu looked at her battered and exhausted appearance and sneered. He put away the whip and laughed cruelly. "Immortal Fairy Qingwan, why are you in such a hurry? Didn't I just seal the ability of your Dantian to transform spiritual energy?" Seeing Lung Qingwan's disbelieving look, he saw that he could do it. Lu Yu used a pair of sinister eyes to look her up and down. Gnashing his teeth, he said, "Useless trash. I originally thought that it would be easy for you to become the champion of the alchemy competition. That's why I allowed you to act like a tyrant over my head. But I didn't expect that even if you lost to Yi Liangshan, you can't even deal with a man. Do you think my Dingwa Manor is a charity hall? We provided you with the best resources and helped you build momentum in Tianguang ruins. But in the end, you can't even do such a small thing. Do you think you can still escape unscathed? For this pill competition, Dingwa Manor put in a lot of effort. Moreover, before Chu Xinyan went into seclusion, he gave full authority over this matter to Lu Yu. Lu Yu knew too well that if Dingwa Manor put in so much effort and ended up with nothing, what kind of miserable fate would await him? Lung Qingwan met Lu Yu's venomous and cold gaze, and her body couldn't help but tremble. This man, in front of her, always had a humble, cowardly, fawning, and infatuated look. But now, it finally revealed its sharp fangs that made Lung Qingwan tremble in fear. However, the fear only lasted for a moment. Lung Qingwan quickly regained her composure and resumed her aloof attitude. "Disgraceful thing! Who do you think you are? How dare you treat me like this? Do you know who I am? In my eyes, all of you are just ants that I can casually stomp to death. Lu Yu, let me tell you, I'm the fiancé of the Emperor, the future Holy Empress of the Shoshin continent. If you obey me and please me, I might be able to help you in the future and give you a chance to ascend." Ha! Lu Yu seemed to have heard a joke, and he laughed so hard that his oily face trembled. The Emperor's fiancée? The future Holy Queen of the Xiaoxin continent? Are you talking about the man who appeared in the Cloud Phoenix Palace Hall? Unfortunately, I don't even want to look at you. Oh, I forgot. I did take a look, but unfortunately, it was like looking at trash. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Lung Qingwan hysterically roared. The Emperor was only deceived by that slut Yi Liangshun. The person he truly loves in his heart is me. I'm his fiancée. I'm the mistress of the polar domain. Lu Yu didn't know where the polar domain was, nor did he know what kind of noble status the man that Lung Qingwan called the Emperor had. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 25:15. 1 second remember, LoveNet, providing you with exciting reading. However, anyone with eyes could tell that the monarch had no interest in Lung Qingwan at all. In fact, he even wanted to kill her as soon as possible. Lu Yu took a step forward and grabbed Lung Qingwan's hair as he laughed sinisterly. For a useless piece of trash like you. Do you know why I still rack my brains and did not hesitate to offend that terrifying man to bring you out of the Cloud Phoenix Palace Hall? He had even wasted one of his priceless teleportation formation discs. Lung Qingwan wailed in pain. Lu Yu laughed even more excitedly. This time I messed up the Marquis matter, and I was originally doomed. I didn't expect that I would get a piece of good news. It turns out that Immortal Fairy Qingwan is really an immortal of the Xiaoxin continent, and has already achieved an immortal body. TSK, TSK, TSK. Although I had my suspicions, I didn't expect that the so-called immortals of the Xiaoxin continent were actually this kind of trash. Lung Qingwan protected her hair and met Lu Yu's greedy and excited gaze. Her whole body tensed up, and a bad premonition welled up in her heart. What do you want to do? Lu Yu said faintly. The Marquis obtained a pill recipe decades ago, saying that by using all the heart blood of a person who has achieved an immortal body to refine a pill, one can break through the tribulation stage and achieve longevity. Without the chaotic tower and the medicine king's inheritance, the Marquis will definitely not let me go, but if I refine the immortal longevity pill in advance, I can definitely make up for it. TSK, TSK, TSK. Hearing this, Lung Qingwan's bewilderment turned into fear and anger. You dare. The heart blood is the location of all the essence of a cultivator. Taking out a drop can make a person extremely weak and drop their cultivation level. If all of it is taken out, then there is no doubt that they will die. Lung Qingwan looked around and found that there was an alchemy furnace in this room. The alchemy fire in the furnace burned fiercely, and beside the alchemy furnace sat a haggard-looking cultivator. It was the former top of the 9th grade spiritual pivot list, Dong Yulong. That day, Dong Yulong's plot to frame Yi Liangshun was exposed. He was directly electrocuted by Tingguang Su, and then permanently sealed. The punishment of the electrocution was extremely strong. Although Dong Yulong survived, his cultivation level and alchemy ability dropped by more than half. Moreover, he was muddle-headed. Once he used too much spiritual power, he would show signs of stupidity. Seeing that Lung Qingwan and Lu Yu were looking at him, Dong Yulong shrunk back a little, then cautiously said with a smile, Lord Lu, the spirit herb for refining the immortal longevity pill have been prepared. As long as the blood from the heart is extracted, we can start refining it. Lu Yu raised his hand, and a dagger appeared in his hand. A dagger flashing with a cold light mercilessly stabs towards Lung Qingwan's heart. The pain, weakness, and fear of having the blood from the heart extracted was not something a normal injury could compare to. At this moment, Lung Qingwan finally panicked. She was afraid. She no longer had that high and mighty feeling of superiority. She screamed in horror and cried for mercy. Don't take it anymore. Don't take it anymore. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. As long as you let me go, I'm willing to do anything. Even if you want my body, I will. I will. Lu Yu's hands didn't stop moving at all. He looked at her face with disdain. If you still had that face of June Mayans. Lu Yu licked his lips. I would naturally be interested. But with this face now, I'll lose my appetite if I look at it more. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website of self-love. Chapter 25:16. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. The ridicule and disdain in Lu Yu's words made Lung Qingwan go crazy. Mayan's face was fine, but she, Lung Qingwan, was rejected even when she took the initiative to throw herself into his arms? Why? How could Lung Qingwan know? Because of the conflict between the effects of heaven-eroding water and magnificent quicksand, it led to a gradual backlash. Now, her face not only returned to Lung Qingwan, but also became waxy yellow, and there were even obvious wrinkles on her eyebrows, eyes, and jaw. She didn't look like a young and beautiful woman in her 20s. On the contrary, she looked like a 40 or 50 years old vulgar peasant woman. Lung Qingwan was extremely jealous, but seeing that Lu Yu wanted to take her heart blood, there was only fear left. I'm just a hollow immortal. Even if you take my heart blood, the effect is not good. My master is a mystic immortal. Yes. My master is a mystic immortal. If you want to take her heart blood, you should take my master's. Lu Yu's action of taking blood paused. Your master? Yes. Lung Qingwan's face was overflowing with tears and snot. She said repeatedly, my master's heart blood. The effect must be 100 times stronger than mine. You have to believe me. You must believe me, ah? Lu Yu sneered. Your master is a mystic immortal. How can I get her heart blood? You want to lie to me? No, it's not. I'm not lying to you. Don't take my heart blood anymore. Boo-hoo. I don't want to die. Lung Qingwan cried and screamed. My master was seriously injured some time ago, and her strength is less than 10%. And I will help you. I am willing to help you subdue my master. I beg you, spare my life. Lu Yu frowned slightly, his face showing a hint of hesitation. Lung Qingwan, this so-called immortal, was really weak in terms of bearing, intelligence, and strength. Lu Yu believed that even if she still had immortal power in her body, he could still deal with this fool with a little trick. And Lung Qingwan's current appearance was even uglier, vulgar, without half an immortal's qualifications. He was afraid that if taking this woman's heart blood was useless, how could he explain it to Master Ho? Seeing Lu Yu hesitate, Lung Qingwan hastily said in a loud voice, I swear to you, I will definitely help you capture my master. Only with her heart blood can you refine a true immortal longevity pill. As long as you let me go when the time comes. Lu Yu glanced at her. If you dare to lie to me, I promise you that your fate will be 100 times more miserable than it is now. Muyin slept for an entire 16 hours. When she wakes up from her sweet sleep, she finds that Di Mingju has been quietly sitting by her side, holding her in his arms. The setting sun shone in through the window, gilding everything in the room with a thin layer of red. Amidst the warm air, one could feel the tranquility and happiness of a lifetime of peace. Muyin looks at the man in front of her who she has decided to spend the rest of her life with. The corners of her mouth slightly curl up, and the corners of her eyes reveal a gentle and sweet smile. She reached out and gently grabbed the man's broad palm, but was quickly held back. Muyin opens her mouth and is about to speak. Then she hears a knock on the door from the outside. Reporting to Jun Shang, there is news from the Yingmei side. They have found traces of Lung Yuexia. Muyin jumps up from the bed, and the charming and gentle warmth in the room fades away in a split second. With great difficulty, Jun Shang, Darren is ready to warm up with his fiancée, but his face is calm as he is pulled out of the room by Muyin. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zii. Chapter 25:17. 1 second to remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. Xinglang, who is about to report, meets his Jun Shang's cold eyes. He can't help but shiver. He scratches his head in confusion. How did he offend Jun Shang? Muyin quickly asks, Lung Yuexia? That Tian Yimin's sectmaster? The woman who tried to kill me? Where's she? Xinglang calms his mind and quickly takes out the communication talisman sent by Ying Mei and hands it to Mu Yan. The talisman is activated, only showing a map and a marked location. Obviously, that is the place where Ying Mei found Lan Yuexia. Mu Yan looks at Di Mingju. Di Mingju nods and says, "Let's go. It's time to completely uproot the remaining evil of Tian Yimin and the threat of Mu Yan." Jun Shang. Just as they are about to leave, Xinglang suddenly hesitates to speak. Jun Shang, aren't you forgetting something important? Di Mingju looks back at him. Mu Yan also shows a puzzled expression. Xinglang looks at Di Mingju, then at Mu Yan. He speaks very carefully, as if he's afraid that someone will get angry. Jun Shang, did you forget that you promised Medicine Wang Darren to support his disciple? Yesterday, when he went to Cloud Phoenix Hall, Xinglang originally wanted to help Jun Shang vent Medicine King's disciple's anger. As a result, when he arrived at Cloud Phoenix Hall, he was suddenly confused by the matter of the real and fake Jun Mayan. So much so that he completely forgot about it. Thinking about it now, Xinglang's heart is full of guilt. Although Medicine King Han Chujiu is unreliable, his disciples saved his life and even saved Di Jun's life. Xinglang's heart is full of gratitude towards this Medicine King's precious disciple. He is also prepared to properly repay this kindness this time. He didn't expect that because of this sudden incident, he couldn't find out who is Medicine King's disciple in Cloud Phoenix Hall. Now, if he wants to find her, he can only rely on the connection between Di Mingju and her. On this day, Xinglang has been waiting for Di Mingju to remember to look for Medicine King's disciple. Who knows, Di Jun seems to have completely forgotten about it. Xinglang bears and finally can't bear it anymore. He swallows his saliva, nervously looking at the somewhat lifeless Mayan. His voice becomes even more careful. "Miss Jun, don't be angry. Although the Medicine King's disciple is a woman, Ruler has no feelings for her. The Medicine King wanted Ruler to marry his precious disciple, but was mercilessly rejected by Ruler." The Star Wolf is minding his own business as he speaks, completely not noticing that his Jun Shang's face has already darkened. Mu Yan shows a smile that isn't a smile. She glances at Di Mingju and leisurely says, "So, there was such a thing. How come I didn't know about it?" Xinglang anxiously said, "Miss Jun, you must not misunderstand Jun Shang. Jun Shang is completely uninterested in that Medicine King's disciple and will definitely not marry her. It's just that the Medicine King's disciple has saved our lives, so we agreed to help the Medicine King with a small favor." Xinglang is now really afraid of Mayan, especially when he had just foolishly mistaken Lung Qingwan for Jun Mayan. In addition, Di Mingju, this wife-doting maniac, is right in front of them. His usual arrogance was nowhere to be seen. Xinglang is afraid that Mayan will get angry because Di Mingju wants to help another woman, so he desperately tries to explain. But he sees Mayan giggling. Completely uninteresting? Will never marry the Medicine King's disciple. Di Mingju hugs her, gritting his teeth. "Shut up." Binjun has now changed his mind. In this life, Binjun will only marry one person, and that is the apprentice of Medicine King Han Chujius. Mobile users, please browse to read for a better reading experience. Chapter 25:18. 1 second to remember, Love Net, to provide you with wonderful reading. Mayan couldn't hold it in anymore. She convulses with laughter. Di Mingju ruthlessly scrapes her nose. Heartless little girl. For whom did Bin Jun keep his life like a jade? Xinglang's eyes widen. He looks at the angry Di Mingju in shock and confusion, and then looks at the laughing Mayan. Gradually, an unbelievable thought emerges in his mind. Medicine King's disciple. Could it be? Could it be? Mayan turns to look at Xinglang, the corners of her mouth hooking up into a playful arc. Xinglang, haven't you even inquired about the identity of your savior? Even if you don't inquire, you should know by casually asking around in Tingguang ruins. Everyone in the Xiojin continent knows that the sacred ancestor medicine king only has one disciple, named Yi Liangchun. In front of a cave at the summit of the Feng Tian mountain range, Lung Yuexia is lying on the ground in a sorry state, her body mottled with scars, and the corner of her mouth is stained with blood that hasn't dried yet. She looks up at Lung Qingwan, her face filled with disbelief, anger, and shock. "You evil disciple, you dare to betray me." Lung Qingwan grew up under Lung Yuexia's coercion. Now, when she meets her devouring gaze, her body instinctively shrunk and dodged. However, when she thinks of how Lung Yuexia disfigured her and how she ordered her around like a dog, the fear on Lung Qingwan's face is mixed with a trace of nervous excitement. "Master, don't blame me at that time. Didn't you teach me? Every man for himself. Heaven and earth destroy him. I want to live, I don't want to die, so I'll have to trouble you to die for me." In order to make Lung Yuexia lose the ability to resist, it can be said that Lung Qingwan exerts all her strength. She knows that Tian Yimin has a top-level healing cultivation method, which only needs to be practiced for 49 days to heal most of the injuries. Moreover, this kind of cultivation only needs to circulate the immortal energy inside the body, and doesn't even need to absorb it from the outside. But this top-level healing cultivation method also has a fatal weakness. That was, on the day of the full moon, the immortal qi had to be retracted back into the dantian to be gathered and sorted out. Otherwise, the meridians would be in a mess, and one would go berserk. On this day, every month, Lung Yuexia would become extremely weak, just like a mortal. Lung Qingwan had once accidentally seen this secret in the Tian Yimin's ancient records. Lu Yu walked up to Lung Yuexia in a few steps and grabbed her hair. The dagger in his hand mercilessly pierced Lung Yuexia's heart. Lu Yu's dagger was specially made. As soon as the blade pierced his heart, a gurgling, bright red heat flowed into the porcelain bowl that Lu Yu was holding. Lung Yuexia let out a miserable howl and almost fainted from the pain. His gaze towards Lung Qingwan and Lu Yu was filled with bone-piercing hatred. Lu Yu didn't immediately extract all of Lung Yuexia's heart blood. Instead, he lowered his head and looked at the porcelain bowl in his hand. Seeing the bright-colored blood in the porcelain bowl, smelling the fragrance that was 100 times stronger than Lung Qingwan's, Lu Yu was so excited that his entire body began to tremble. Is this a mortal power? Just by smelling it, he could feel the formidable power contained within it. Moreover, in his heart, there was also a faint impulse and desire. He wanted to drink this bowl of heart blood, and he wanted to become even more powerful. However, Lu Yu quickly calmed down. That prescription also mentioned that the blood of an immortal's heart couldn't be directly consumed. Otherwise, the body would explode and die. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, come to Zii. Chapter 2519. 1 second remember Love Net, providing you with wonderful reading. Dong Yulong, come here. Lu Yu's voice trembled, and he looked at Dong Yulong greedily. Listen, I will give you all the blood from this woman's heart in a moment. If you can refine 2 immortal longevity pills for me, I promise you that for the rest of your life, you will eat and drink well, and you will be more carefree than Master Dong. But if you can't do it, Lu Yu revealed a sinister smile. You know the consequences. Dong Yulong trembled all over, and he opened his mouth to say that the immortal longevity pill was extremely difficult to refine. Let alone 2. He couldn't even guarantee 1. But he was afraid of Lu Yu, so he couldn't say half a word, and only nodded in fear. Lu Yu returned to Lung Yuexia, excited and happy, and couldn't help laughing. Lung Qingwan, you did a good job this time. If this time, Marquis and I can both get the immortal longevity pill, it's not bad to keep your little life for fun in the future. As for Lung Qingwan, who stayed by his side, Lu Yu naturally wouldn't say what kind of life she lived. Lung Qingwan's face was so ugly that he couldn't bear to say it, but she was an immortal after all. When he thought that a high and mighty immortal could be trampled under his feet, Lu Yu felt that it was not bad to keep her life. The fear on Lung Qingwan's face turned into ecstasy. Her dantian was still sealed, and she had been afraid that Lu Yu would kill her after she was no longer useful. Now that she heard Lu Yu personally admit that he would spare her life, the stone in her heart finally fell to the ground. As for her master Lung Yuexia's life and death, she couldn't care less. At most, after her dantian was unsealed, she would kill Lu Yu and avenge Lung Yuexia. Lung Qingwan smiled. Qingwan is willing to serve my lord. I still have many secrets of Tian men. Please, my lord, Lu must believe in my value. Hearing this, Lung Yuexia stared at Lung Qingwan with murderous eyes, as if she couldn't wait to rush over and tear her to pieces. Lu Yu, on the other hand, laughed loudly. After laughing, he grabbed Lung Yuexia's hair again, and the dagger in his hand was about to stab her heart again. This time, he would extract all of Lung Yuexia's blood from her forehead. He was going to use the life of this Xian immortal, who was once high and mighty, to achieve his own Tao of eternal life. However, just as the dagger was about to pierce into Lung Yuexia's chest, Lung Yuexia, who was in a sorry state, suddenly revealed a sinister and crazy smile. A bad premonition surged in Lu Yu's heart. He wanted to retreat in a flash. Suddenly, Lung Yuexia, who had been unable to move, reached out and grabbed his wrist that was holding the knife. Lu Yu's eyes widened as he desperately circulated the spiritual energy in his body. But soon, from Lung Yuexia's palm, an energy that was countless times stronger than spiritual power flowed into Lu Yu's body. It went straight to his limbs and bones. Ah! Lu Yu let out a blood-curdling scream. The meridians in his body ruptured inch by inch, and his entire body became a bloody mess. His body swayed, and he fell to the ground in disbelief. His red eyes stared at Lung Yuexia. Impossible, impossible. Isn't your dantian sealed? Lung Yuexia ruthlessly stomped her foot and sneered. A mere mortal's technique also wants to trap a Xian immortal. A mere ant also dares to make a move against Ben Gong, who gave you the bear's heart and leopard's gall. Lung Yuexia played with the dagger. Her eyes were filled with ridicule and hatred. You dare to take the blood from this empress's heart? Fine, then this empress will make you bleed out every single drop of blood in your body and die. For mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the Self-Love website. Chapter 25-20. 1 second remember, LoveNet, providing you with wonderful reading. Lu Yu's eyes revealed obvious fear. He wanted to struggle and beg for mercy. Unfortunately, it was still too late. Lung Yuexia threw the dagger straight into his heart. In a split second, the blood in Lu Yu's body was sucked clean by this dagger, turning into a dry corpse. Dong Yulong was scared out of his wits when he saw this scene. He threw away the bowl in his hand and turned around to escape. Lung Yuexia raised his hand, and the dagger on Lu Yu's body flew out. It stabbed straight into Dong Yulong's back. Is this consort's heart blood something you can casually throw away? After dealing with the two of them, Lung Yuexia's gaze turned to Lung Qingwan. Lung Qingwan was scared silly at this time. Her legs went soft, and she directly sat on the ground. Tears and snot covered her face. Master, Disciple was wrong. Please forgive Disciple. Disciple was also forced to do this. Lung Yuexia laughed sinisterly. He suddenly raised his hand, and a small red worm appeared in his palm. The transformed spiritual power stimulated the worm. Lung Qingwan's face immediately twisted, and she wailed miserably as she rolled on the ground. Wang Lianggu. This was a Wang Lianggu that could swallow a person's soul. The pain of the soul being bitten inch by inch was absolutely not something an ordinary person could bear. After a quarter of an hour, Lung Qingwan collapsed on the ground, her body twitching nonstop. At this moment, she even somewhat envied Lu Yu and Dong Yulong, who died so easily, because the pain of being tortured by the Wang Lianggu was even more unbearable than death. Lung Yuexia looked at her miserable and embarrassed appearance, then walked in front of her and sneered. Lung Qingwan, I raised you up, made you the young master of the Heaven Medicine sect, and planned for you to become the mistress of the polar domain. You evil disciple, this is how you repay me. Lung Qingwan trembled as tears streamed down her face. She cried and begged for mercy nonstop. Master, disciple was wrong. Spare my life. I beg you to spare me. Disciple, I really had no other choice. I lost to that slut Yi Liangchun in the alchemy competition. Later on, the emperor appeared, but he was completely indifferent to my beauty and even said that Yi Liangchun was his fiancée. Disciple was heavily injured by the emperor and was also schemed against by that Val Luyu. I had no choice but to. Master, you have to believe in your disciple. Your disciple is loyal and devoted to you. There's absolutely no disloyalty. Lung Yuexia sneered at Lung Qingwan's words of loyalty. She didn't believe a single word of it. However, her face was filled with astonishment. Yap Liangshun, who was this person? Also, the Celestial Emperor is here? Tell me everything that happened in the past few days. If you dare to hide anything. Seeing the Wang Liang mother insect in Lung Yuexia's hands, Lung Qingwan was scared out of her wits. She didn't dare to hide anything. She recounted everything that happened in the Tianguang ruins these past few days when she was suppressed by Yap Liangchun, as well as what happened in the pill competition. When Lung Yuexia heard the last part, her complexion greatly changed. She screamed in disbelief. You idiot, you actually let Di Ming Ju recognize your identity? Her ears were ringing, and there was only one thought in her mind. Escape. She must escape immediately. The Celestial Emperor will catch up very soon. With the Celestial Emperor's ability, knowing that Lung Qingwan is a remnant of the Tiani men, how could he possibly allow her to escape? How could Lung Qingwan and Lu Yu, these two wastes, really escape? There's only one possibility. Want to escape? At this moment, a cold voice rang out from the void. Lung Yuexia, do you think you can escape? Chapter 25-21. 1 second remember LoveNet to provide you with exciting reading. A handsome young man in black slowly descended from the sky and stood in front of Lung Yuexia. Her cold eyes revealed a mocking smile. You escaped from my Xian division once that day. Do you think you can escape a second time? Lung Yuexia's body swayed. She gritted her teeth and spat out 2 words, Shadow Demon. Yes, the black-clothed youth that had appeared at this moment was precisely one of the 4 great Imperial Guards of the Polar Domain, the leader of the Xian division, Ing Mei. An indescribable fear welled up in Lung Yuexia's heart. Sure enough, you guys deliberately let that idiot Lung Qingwan go just to find my position. Ing Mei said coldly. Of course. Otherwise, who do you think can escape if the Emperor wants to capture them? Lung Yuexia gritted her teeth. Shameless. You actually have the nerve to say that others are shameless? As soon as she finished speaking, a clear and melodious female voice came from afar and fell into her ears. Lung Yuexia, when you, a profound immortal, chased after me, a golden core cultivator, why didn't you feel ashamed and shameless? Lung Yuexia was startled and quickly looked up. This female voice, why did it sound so familiar? Just as this thought flashed through his mind, he saw 3 figures landing on the mountain peak as fast as lightning. Their leader was a man as handsome as a god. In the Xiaoxin continent, it can be said that there is no one who doesn't know of this person. He is the Polar Domain's sovereign, Di Mingju. One of the Polar Domain's 4 great Imperial Guards, Star Wolf, was following closely behind him. And standing next to Di Mingju is a woman with an ordinary and delicate appearance. The woman's cultivation was only at the early nascent soul stage. But Di Mingju is actually holding the hand of such an ordinary woman. The 2 of them are very intimate, and the woman's gaze is presumptuously and mockingly falling on her body. Lung Yuexia was filled with fear and indignation. What they fear is Di Mingju's dread and majesty. He felt indignant because this woman looked so ordinary and her cultivation was so low. What qualifications did she have to stand beside the polar domain sovereign emperor? Where did he get the guts to look at her so rudely? Emperor, Emperor, you've come to save me, haven't you? Laughing and crying at the same time, Lung Qingwan rushes towards Di Mingju. Her entire face is filled with nervous excitement. However, before he can get close to Di Mingju, he is sent flying by Yingmei's kick. Yingmei's figure flashed, ruthlessly stepping on Lung Qingwan's neck. As long as he exerted some force with his feet, he would be able to crush Lung Qingwan's throat. Lung Qingwan is so scared that she almost pisses herself. She keeps shouting, Dijun, Dijun, save me, save me. I can't die, I can't die. If I die, you'll never see mine again. Yingmei's face turned cold, and he exerted force on his feet. What nonsense are you talking about? Lung Qingwan spits out a mouthful of blood. Her face is distorted from the pain, but then she laughs hysterically. Ha ha, Jun Mayan is already dead. She was killed by my master Lung Yuexia herself. From now on, Dijun, you won't be able to see that devastatingly beautiful face anymore. Only I can take the magnificent quicksand, that peerless countenance can reappear. Dijun, it doesn't matter if you don't have Mayan. I can be your Mayan. I can become your wife in this world. Only I can make you and Mayan relive old dreams. Only me, ah. Di Mingju coldly says, magnificent quicksand? If Ben Jun doesn't remember incorrectly, this should be a medicinal pill that is explicitly forbidden to be refined in the entire Xiaoxin continent. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zii. Chapter 25-22. 1 second remember, love net, to provide you with exciting reading. Furthermore, the true formula of the magnificent quicksand was lost 1,000 years ago. The most important thing about the magnificent quicksand was not the pill formula, but the medicinal catalyst. In the past 1,000 years, it wasn't that no one in the Xiaoxin continent had tried to refine the magnificent quicksand, but in the end, because they didn't know how to obtain and refine the medicinal catalyst, they could only give up. No, the magnificent quicksand is done. It's really done. Otherwise, how could I have the same appearance as Jun Mayan? Lung Qingwan roars in excitement. Dijun, you have to believe me. If you don't believe me, you can ask Lung Yuexia. The magnificent quicksand it's her who refined it, and she's also the one who killed Mayan with her own hands. The magnificent quicksand was mixed with Jun Mayan's blood that I obtained from the Yanwu continent. Also, there was the real medicine that woman called Lu something. Mayan's heart moves, blurting out, Lu Ruoxuan? Yes, Lu Ruoxuan. Lung Qingwan said repeatedly. That woman who's neither human nor ghost, although she's a favored child of the heavens, the luck on her body has already been almost exhausted. This caused my magnificent quicksand to be imperfect. I couldn't completely transform into Jun Mayan's appearance. Mu Yin frowns. Favored child of the heavens? What is the favored child of the heavenly Tao? Lung Qingwan doesn't want to answer Mayan's question. However, the next moment, Dijun raised his hand. A ray of light directly cut off one of Lung Qingwan's ears, causing her to let out a mournful scream. Di Mingju says coldly, if you can't hear Ben Jun's fiancé's question, then don't keep your ears for decoration. Lung Qingwan was scared of her wits. Her heart was filled with jealousy and hatred, but she had no choice but to obediently answer. Heaven's chosen child is a general term for the descendants of those special medicinal people in ancient times. The luck on their bodies is somewhat related to the heaven's way, and they can seize other people's luck for their own use. If I want to refine the magnificent quicksand, the most important thing is this medicinal catalyst. Mu Yin suddenly understood. She thought of Lu Ruoxuan's inexplicable good luck. There is also Qi Huang's evaluation of her. Sure enough, Lu Ruoxuan was the person known as the favored child of the heavens. And this kind of medicinal goo person who stole other people's luck for a living was used as the catalyst. He could even refine the magnificent quicksand, replicating someone else's appearance, even stealing the original owner's luck and everything else. This kind of pill was both sinister and terrifying. During this time, Lung Yuexia wanted to stop Lung Qingwan for revealing the method to make the Fenghua quicksand. It's a pity that he was stopped by Starwolf, and the Wang Lianggu in his hand was also delivered to Di Mingju's hands. Lung Yuexia could only stare at Lung Qingwan viciously. When Lung Qingwan sees that the monster's worm insect that controls her life and death is in Di Mingju's hands, she only feels that the hope of survival has increased. She excitedly shouts, Dijun, as long as you can find me the real medicine, I can definitely become exactly like Jun Mayan. Dijun, don't tell me you don't want to see Mayan again? She points at Mayan. After seeing Jun Mayan's stunning beauty, can you still tolerate such an ordinary and ugly woman? At this moment, Muyin finally couldn't bear it anymore. She slowly steps forward, looking down at Lung Qingwan from above, and unhurriedly says, You said Jun Mayan is already dead? You're saying that only you can let Di Mingju see Jun Mayan again? Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 25-23. 1 second remember LoveNet to provide you with exciting reading. Lung Qingwan's body trembles, but her face reveals a sinister smile. That's right, that slut Jun Mayan is dead. Dead through and through. Not even her bones remain. From now on, only I, Lung Qingwan, can possess such a peerless beauty. Who do you think you are, you ugly freak? Dijun is letting you stay by his side right now, just for the sake of novelty. How can that ugly face of yours be mentioned in the same breath with Jun Mayan's peerless appearance? Muyin listens to the woman's nervous and hysterical voice, and the expression on her face slowly turns from cold and stern to a chuckle. That smile wasn't even one of mockery or adding insult to injury. Instead, it was one of boredom, as if he was looking at an idiot, one that didn't even have the interest to argue. Are you saying that I'm ordinary and ugly? You're saying that Jun Mayan no longer exists in this world? Muyan's hand slowly covers her face, and she gently wipes it. At the same time, she casts the soul-cleansing spell. Then Lung Qingwan, open your dog eyes wide and look clearly. Who am I? As soon as she finished speaking, the disguise on her face was completely removed by the soul-cleansing spell. Under the sunlight, a beautiful face appeared in front of everyone. Her skin was as white as snow. Her facial features were exquisite and enchanting, and her peach blossom eyes were like ripples of water. She was a peerless beauty that could make even the mountains and rivers lose their color. Lung Qingwan opened her mouth wide, her eyes widened, and her pupils contracted violently. His throat gurgled, but he couldn't utter a single word. Even Lung Yuexia, who has been keeping her cool all this time, lets out an incredulous shriek after seeing Mayan's true appearance. I'm impossible. What happened to you? How are you still alive? Shouldn't you? Shouldn't I have been beaten into the god-refining abyss by you and devoured by the god-refining water? Muyan's line of sight falls on Lung Yuexia, and there's an undisguised sneer and ridicule on her face. What a pity, my luck is too good to die. I've let you down. After Lung Yuexia recovers from her shock, her line of sight turns towards Di Mingju, who has already walked to Muyan's side. From the beginning to the end, Di Mingju's gaze never left Mayan for more than 3 breaths. The Polar Domain's emperor had always been known for being cold and aloof, but when he was beside this beautiful young girl, his eyes were filled with tenderness that he didn't even bother to conceal. If they didn't see this Di Mingju with their own eyes, who in the Shoshin continent will believe it? Who would dare to believe it? As Lung Yuexia looked at the man and woman who stood side by side, scenes from a long time ago surfaced in her mind. The fiancé she thought would definitely marry her. the man who was cold and distant in front of everyone. However, after seeing that bitch Bailey Lu, he fell deeply in love with her. From then on, he only had eyes for Bailey Lu and no one else. The marriage agreement that had been set verbally by the parents of the two families was mercilessly abandoned by him. Lung Yuexia lost everything and became the laughingstock of the entire Xioshan continent. At that time, her heart was filled with hatred. She swore that she would exterminate the entire Shun musician sect, and that bitch Bailey Lu would be consigned to eternal damnation. Therefore, when someone came to look for Tian Yimin to cooperate, she agreed without the slightest hesitation. Although Tian Yimin's power was negligible, and Lung Yuexia's cultivation and talent could only be said to be ordinary, but she had an advantage that no one else in the world had. Tian Yimin, or rather, Lung Yuexia, was indebted to the polar domain's monarch. That's right, under a freak combination of circumstances, Lung Yuexia saved the holy empress of the polar domain, that is, the life of Deming Ju's mother. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit Zii. Chapter 25-24. 1 second remember, love net, to provide you with exciting reading. Although, that time of danger left behind a great hidden danger on Deming Ju's mother, and she ultimately still breathed her last. But the entire polar domain was indebted to her. In addition, the existence of the Shun musicians at that time was indeed a threat to too many forces. That was why the polar domain had acted in the god-killing battle. That was like an apocalyptic calamity. After that, Lung Yuexia even offered an extremely precious goo to the polar domain's emperor, Di Mingju's father, Di Beixian, and helped Di Beixian greatly. Henceforth, Tian Yimin and Lung Yuexia skyrocketed with a meteoric rise. Moreover, because Lung Yuexia had once unintentionally revealed a mournful expression, she was worried that Tian Yimin would have no one to protect them in the future and would henceforth disappear from the world. Di Beixian had once joked, "If you're really worried that there's no one to protect the Tian Yimin, you can just let your imperial son marry a disciple of the Tian Yimin as a concubine." It was precisely because of this joke that Lung Qingwan had always considered herself as the future mistress of the polar domain. As for Lung Yuexia, she put all her effort into nurturing Lung Qingwan. She vainly wanted to borrow her disciple's hand to control the new monarch and then control the entire polar domain. They selectively forgot that even Di Beixian only said that Lung Qingwan would be Di Mingju's side concubine. Lung Yuexia would never have thought of that. Di Mingju was a completely different person from Di Beixian. After returning from the cultivation continent's tribulation, he single-handedly controlled the polar domain and gained the loyalty of millions. From then on, the polar domain prospered with each passing day, while the nether domain weakened with each passing day. In the end, the polar domain became the undisputed #1 king among the three legs of the Xioshan continent. This kind of Deming Ju, this kind of polar domain, makes the blood in Lung Yuexia and Lung Qingwan's bodies almost boil. They were eager to put Lung Qingwan on the throne of the polar domain's mistress. Who would have thought that Di Mingju wouldn't put Tian Yimin in his eyes at all? Not to mention marrying Lung Qingwan as a concubine. In fact, he wouldn't even summon them once in 100 years. As a result, Tian Yimin declined day by day. The only way to maintain their glory is to continuously proclaim that Lung Qingwan is Di Mingju's favored fiancée, and that she will be the mistress of the polar domain in the future. Moreover, the polar domain's refusal to deny it also raised hope in Lung Qingwan and the others' hearts. However, after Mu Yin appeared, this kind of hope completely turned into despair. Lung Yuexia's gaze is fixed on Mayan. Back then, it was Bailey Lu, this Shun musician, who snatched away her man. And now, it's Jun Mayan, the successor of the Shun musician, who has crushed all her dreams and ambitions. Shun musician, Shun musician, Lung Yuexia took a deep breath and roared, Imperial Monarch, do you know who this bitch is? She is a god. Mu Yin is startled and is about to make a move. Who knew that Di Mingju would move faster than her? His hands didn't seem to move at all. Lung Yuexia's face let out a loud slap, and her whole body flipped over. When he finally regained his balance, he couldn't help but spit out 2 teeth. Di Mingju's eyes don't have the slightest ripple, looking at Lung Yuexia like he's looking at a dead thing. Ben Jun's fiancée, is she someone you have the qualifications to insult? Lung Yuexia, you're a smart person. If you don't want to go to hell and live a life worse than death, and then have your soul fly away and scatter, never to be reincarnated, then think clearly about what you should say and what you shouldn't say. Lung Yuexia wants to open her mouth to say something, but under Di Ming's cold gaze, her voice gets stuck in her throat. Her body couldn't help but tremble. She understands. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, come to Zai. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.